First, roll call for the supervisors, everyone present, but Kuhn is sick. He called me this morning and asked me to go ahead and share the agenda for today. Ask for approval of the agenda for March 21st. So moved. Second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Approval of the minutes from March 14th. About 3/4 down, it says motion by Hackman, second by Zoll to allow for expenditure of live streaming.
Mhm.
There's no tally on the votes, whether it carried or failed.
Okay.
Was it all in favor?
Oh. It was all in favor.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Second to last sentence, you forgot to call consensus out. The last page, right there.
Oh, okay. All right.
Please clean up the second and third last sentence and put colon or whatever, $70 and add the cents,
Okay.
just to be consistent.
Anything else?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Any discussion, questions on the minutes? It's changed. Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. It'll just be a couple minutes to discuss adding the modulator, the beacon snagger.
I think Ray wanted to be here for that.
Okay, so we'll just wait on that.
Do you want to discuss the rural recycling? That'd be pretty quick, wouldn't it?
Could be, yes. Discuss the replacing the rural recycling signs throughout the county.
And signs, 8 of them in the county that are really faded. The public can't see the schedule on them. And I took some pictures, I got some pictures of the Ionia area, North Washington, and the building that we have in New Hampton, East Main. That's the Ionia one. You can see the schedules, I think dated 2017. On the left side, you got, I would assume, recycling do's and don'ts, and then the recycling sign. That one is in North Washington, and you can't see nothing. Very, I feel we can do better. This is at the DHS location on East Main. Still can't read nothing. There's a schedule dated 17 year, hasn't been updated since. The recycling sign a little bit better, I suppose, because it doesn't see the sun, or I don't know. So Stephanie did call General. It does come out of the county funds, RSB. General does not replace these signs. There are signs. and who knows when they got put in. Probably 10, 15 years ago. Don't know a cop here in the district, doesn't matter. I can do a couple. Use another can of blue paint, and then Stephanie did back here, did laminate the current schedule. They just gotta clean up the old one and then just put this inside the plexiglass, you know? At least the citizens of Chickasaw County would know the current schedule. Just do something nice, $1,000 a year for real recycling, and we can do better than what's out there in public.
I think they need more than repainting.
Something.
They're pretty rusty. Yeah, we just need to probably look at purchasing new ones.
Exactly. The schedule shows where every location is every other week. We have 8 of them throughout the county. Some are on county property, some are on other property. I don't know if you guys want me to look into it further. You guys want, do we just take them all for a week and get them sandblasted and repaint it? And then I think the plexiglass thing works, so you can insert new information, because that schedule changes every year. Just bring it to your guys' attention, it's just, you can do better.
Might be a good project for Eagle Scout or civics class in high school or high school group, student council or something that's looking for a community service project.
Oh, yeah, good point.
I'm not even sure there's one in Lawler anymore.
A sign
Yeah,
for the location.
I know. It's right by the car wash. That's
Because remember,
that's it. I don't think there's even a post there
the
anymore.
old owner came up, 2-3 years ago, and they were tipped over and they weren't in the right location. Because it's also for the driver himself to know where to go and to park.
Yeah.
So, I guess, does anybody want to?
Designate the chair to check out Boy Scouts or maybe Girl Scouts if they want to work on the signs or not. No, I mean, it's just a suggestion.
Yeah, I think some are in pretty bad
Just,
repair. Might have to look at
We
some
might
new
have
ones.
to pick them up ourselves and give them to a sandblasting.
Who's that sandblaster? I don't know if they can size it. There's a one in Jericho that sandblast, so could we find them all and sandblast them and then start over? We could paint them all blue, and then we could hire somebody to put the recycling sign on and then the 2 plexiglass back on with stainless steel bolts. They're all rusted.
I can check with Bruce and see if he's got time to get it done.
Yeah, and that's the one I know that's in the county that's sandblasted anymore.
So I know
So the consensus is,
They need to be repaired. At least we can sandblast them and then somebody else can go around. And the one that's gonna be, like I didn't travel the rest of them, I only traveled 3 of them. The one at 5-Star Co-op in North Washington is actually buried in a rock. You don't see the tire anymore, you don't see the concrete, all you see is that stem coming out of the ground. So that's gonna take something more than a body to pick it up. Like if somebody, a neighbor or somebody to
Digging out.
dig it out but anyway, just thought we can discuss it. And come back, see what the price is for sandblasting and painting blue.
So Steve, you want to look into that there?
that.
See what it would, take a picture of the sign or whole sign and ask the sandblaster what it would take.
There's 8 of them.
Okay. Moving on then, we're gonna go to 9:05, public comment. Is there any here today?
What's happening with the Inspire contract?
What's
What's
that?
happening with the Inspire contract? I thought that was decided for $2,000 a month, and then all of a sudden it blew up. Is that correct, or?
I think we have until March 31st for their response.
Correct.
Yes,
The board stuck with 2,000 a month and offered them that and asked for a formal response by the end of the month. Yeah, today we have not gotten a response. So.
I have 2 public comments. One, on the public hearing, we gotta do better, under Iowa law. under 331434, when we talk about county budgets, only residents and taxpayers of the county may present argument for or against the budget. I believe we had non-citizen voice some concerns last week. Second thing is I got a phone call from Linda Jaden, Supervisor in Floyd County. I got the report on my phone if anybody wants to listen to it. It's not public though. Sharing her concerns about our representative not showing up at the DCAT meeting 2 months in a row, so hopefully that's taken care of. And if it's not, please put it on the agenda so we can reconsider that member attending meetings. Under their bylaws and DHS, we have to have a representative in Chickasaw County. So, just for the board to know that those concerns are out there.
Any other public comment? Okay, moving on. You wanna see if Ray would come in, we'll discuss the adding the modulator, the Beacon Snyder website.
They're over there.
See if he can.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Morning, Ray.
Morning.
Going to discuss adding the modulator to the Beacon Snyder website.
Let me. I gotta switch over to the Wi-Fi too here. I forwarded this all to the supervisors. Not sure if you all got to see that. Essentially, when I was at ISAC spring conference, they are now offering this module, which Ray said he had done this on Excel before.
Yeah.
So
I
essentially,
requested it.
Huh?
I requested it.
Yep.
so
Well,
essentially,
You know, a couple of years back, when I did that, valuation review for our conference board, I included that, and then you requested also some additional work on it.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
So essentially, I mean, I thought it was actually a really neat tool. And, then found out after the fact that Ray did this, but it's not, like I think that you'd have to request it from you in order to get this. It's
Yeah.
not out there. So what I thought was really neat was it tells you your estimated yearly property tax dollars, and then it breaks down where your tax dollars go. So it tells you that 62.2% of your tax dollars goes to the school. Some goes to the county bond, some goes to the county fire. And then on the right side, it actually breaks it down by county government. So it's specific just on the county level. And it breaks it down in each of the service areas, which I thought was really neat. And then it gives you a listing of how much money per year your dollars goes towards these entities.
So your vision then, Stephanie, would be on the county website, and then any property owner can enter their
This is
parcel.
actually, if you put it on
The Beacon.
the Beacon website, it takes their levy rate that they have,
Mm-hmm.
specific to the district that they have, and computes this automatically.
Right. And that's where I
So,
saw to
yeah.
have it as underneath Beacon. So if I go look at my property, I can see exactly how much of my tax dollars is going to the library, public safety.
Now, what I would suggest is, however, the module, the pie chart, needs to reflect cities and schools
Yes.
in county breakdown. It doesn't need, we don't want it to reflect just county dollars, levies, and the county departments. You're gonna want it to reflect
Whatever school district.
whatever school district,
Right.
Fire.
all tax levying bodies,
Right.
not just the county only.
Right.
Because that can result in a little deception, thinking that all of my tax dollars are going to the
Right.
county, and this is where all my tax dollars
That's where I
go.
write the check to.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
dispersed.
you know, versus a
Right.
true picture of, okay,
Right.
yes, but we have, yes, within the county, we have all these departments and we have all these levies.
Right.
But however, we have additional levies. You have your townships, you have your schools, you have your cities.
Right.
And that also needs reflected. So that's what needs, we need to work with Schneider on,
Right.
and make sure that that is how it is developed.
Right. So on the left side here where it says total tax description, it has like the school and stuff. And Jasper County, I was talking to one of their supervisors, and they're actually going to do this module. They are one of 6 counties in the state of Iowa that actually supersedes like their levy rates, and they are the exception. They get a tax more. So their spending is right up here, you know, and I feel like this is also a great tool. So when people come and ask questions or they have questions, well, why am I paying so much in taxes? Well, let's go to your page, and this literally shows them where their dollars go to.
So this is just,
This is just an
website,
example.
The website, so I mean, who's gonna print this document off? It's not gonna
You
be
don't-
on our tax slips.
No,
No,
So
when you
yeah,
go, when you
website.
pull up, can you pull up Beacon?
yeah, for
Pull
sure.
up the Beacon website. It'll be just a click off of there.
So the people of the county have to go to the website. It's not a paper copy
Right, and they can print it off,
on their own expense.
yes, correct. But like right now, if you pull up a parcel and,
Yeah.
you know, on the website, and if you scroll all the way down, you've got there are links to our property record card, Iowa land records. This would be another link for that pie chart.
And that's why it's a quote of $752.
And 972 a year. Yep. So if you come down here, this is where that information
See,
would
this
land.
is all, there at the very bottom, there would be a link then under the tax date, under your tax dollars.
This one's exempt though.
Right.
Yeah, but
I wasn't gonna pick on somebody as an individual.
But it would create that, you have that link there.
So I just thought, you know, I thought it was really cool
It
actually.
is.
And it's, so if people ask you, you know, like, we had that incident where a taxpayer, you know, asked Roman about a closed road and how much did my tax dollars goes towards the infrastructure of said bridge that's going to be closed. He can literally go here and say, well, thank you for your $376, you know, like for, that goes towards roads or whatever.
Or
So,
goes to secondary roads.
yeah.
And this is strictly property tax, has nothing to do with
Yeah.
other intergovernmental funds.
Correct.
Oh,
This is strictly your property tax statements. You can access your parcel on Beacon to look up these percentages.
Yep.
You know, for this instance, this is Howard County ground, but New Hampton Community Schools only 44%. You know, Howard County has a lot more taxes.
Mhm.
Because if you pick New Hampton School District in my location, I think it's close to 53% of my taxes. And it depends on the parcel, what school district, what fire district, what community college, and that's the breakdown right there that you see up there. It's just, if we go ahead and spend this $972, educate the people where the site is located. Is it gonna be on the website? Because you don't offer it today for GIS, it's internal, you offer it.
Right.
If somebody asks, I suppose you could develop it, but
Well,
This
we
would be
could
more
create we could create an insert with those tax sheets that are sent
If we
out.
could actually create with the new website,
A
a
link,
link from the new website to take you to this as well.
right?
I think it's well worth it.
And see, because you're looking at, what we have for, you know, between all the tax districts and then within the tax districts, all the various taxing bodies, you know, taxing entities. To create a pie chart for each and every one of those. Well, we're this for $972.
Yeah, and I did verify with them because I didn't want to have to manually go in and put all these things, and then they said they actually have a way to pull that information off of Dome. So that's all the certified information, so it'll just automatically do that.
Let's have them give us a sample of what the pie chart would look like so that we can
Of our own?
Yeah.
Or,
Yes,
okay,
so that we can.
Whether it be on the website or whether we choose to put it on.
No, I would like to have Schneider develop our pie chart, and then I'm sure we could
Oh,
tweak it the way we want it to look.
versus,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
That's what I'm
cause,
saying is,
Well, the one on the left is total property tax.
right,
And then this one's a breakdown county, but then how's that fair for a city resident?
exactly,
So
right.
we'd have to have 3 charts.
We
that's
could
just it.
work
you know,
through
we
it.
want- That's why I say I'd like to see the charts so that we
Right.
could
And nobody,
make our recommendations. on it.
right, nobody yet in Iowa has this. This is out of Georgia that they've done this with. And so they're working on Jasper County, like I said. So, yeah, we for sure could email them and get that.
Yeah.
Because all those levy rates are out there.
where would we want to take this out of? Our IT account or general
General
service?
Well, right now,
service.
we have
I mean,
the county,
Or-
county general pays for part of Schneider, of Beacon, and our office pays for the other part. Because,
Say general services would pay for the $972 a year.
so what's the consensus? I'm hearing Ray would like to check out the pie
well, I think you can
first.
probably go ahead,
or we'll,
I think you can go ahead and approve it, and then have Stephanie and I just work with Ryan and Schneider and,
and get it developed.
get it developed. That would be my recommendation, instead of coming back and forth several different times.
Just a financial question. Does Snyder know that they're losing their county website?
Yes.
Just wanted to throw that out there.
Yep.
So that wasn't a cheap.
No. I sent them an email after you guys made the motion to go with Neapolitan, and just to kind of notify them. But now it sounds like there might be a partnership. So
That's how that works. I'm for it. I think it's a good 2.5 for people that don't quite understand their tax slips.
It'd make a lot more transparency. People could see where the tax dollars are going and what
yeah,
amount.
please.
Is that a motion then?
Yeah, that's a motion.
All right, I'll second it.
And that allows Ray and Stephanie to work on the pie charts. I just want to make sure that we don't exclude anybody.
Yeah, that's my thing, is make sure that we are really showing them a true picture of it.
Right.
When you get that motion typed up, you want
Sure.
to read it back to the board.
Motion by Hackman, second by Byrne, to add the taxing module to the taxing, what do you think, pie chart or tax? I don't know what they really called it.
Distribution of your current percent of taxes.
Tax distribution pie chart.
There you go. Okay.
Motion by Hackman, second by Byrne, to add the tax distribution pie chart to the Beacon Schneider website for $972 annually. Is that okay?
We got a prorated rate then, I guess. Or does that start today? It's good until yesterday next year,
I can ask if there's a proration.
just for a yearly thing that keep it on a fiscal year or a calendar year,
Okay.
so we don't forget. Looking at the contract.
Well, I'm sure there'll have to be a contract signed. So do you need to authorize chair, or, I don't know. So
You put that in the motion
that,
to authorize chair sign contract for yearly total of $972. So however you want to word that in.
okay. Okay, and authorize chairperson signature. Okay,
Okay, you want to read that back? What you have.
Okay, motion by Hackman, second by Burnt to add the tax distribution pie chart to the Beacon Schneider website for $972 annually and authorize chairperson signature.
Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone disagree? Motion carries. Moving on, 9:15, we're past that. We have Lisa Walter here. We have a department update.
Thanks,
What
Ray.
do you want to discuss regarding the server room temperature?
We could do either. The server room's gonna be really quick.
Okay, start there then.
So actually, Jake did stop down last week and he was wondering, how it was going. Temps really didn't change at all. And after some looking at it, they wired it backwards. So what the temps were before were 89 degrees in the room when the door was closed. When it was open, it got down to 80. So after it got switched and the wiring was correct, it's 72 consistent now. It's perfect.
Wow.
So,
The environment did all
yes. Yeah.
Did he figure it out?
that. So when I saw the agenda, I did my research and I go, why isn't it working? And I did my old experiment with the Ziploc bag. And you turn it up to 100 degrees, the fan kicks on. You turn it down to 50 degrees, it takes the bag falls, right? So the normally closed, normally open contacts would switch backwards. I'm not blaming anybody, but I wish some people would take some.
My opinion
craftsmanship
is that we
and
need to
work.
let them know and maybe we should get a discount.
So it's totally up to the maintenance guy, Dave. When they installed it and we didn't know about it, so I'm not blaming anybody. But for a whole week, when I found out it wasn't changing temperature, there has to be something wrong here. But like this morning, all weekend, it was fine, the door shut.
72. Yep.
And we have it set at 74. I was talking to Dave Friday about it, because Friday morning it kind of worked.
Yep.
The 75, we're trying to save some money, just turn it down to 80. What's too hot, I guess.
They did cut a piece for the heat vent that's in there too and covered that up so we don't have the heat coming in there. In the summertime, we'll take that down so the air can come in and cool it down, but
That
that'll help
damp,
save too.
that damper, when you close, it doesn't close 100%.
Right.
And for the issue of the thermostats, for Penny to get heat in her office, I feel they have to turn up the heat to get heat to that outside office.
Cause her office is cold. So you have, 90 degrees in that little room and on the same, like you said, heat air thing is Penny's office, that's 60 degrees. So, yeah, just kind of fighting.
The exhaust fan is working perfect, like it's supposed to work today, so.
Yep.
We'll probably see those claims next week. I think Dave should reach out to,
We did get, Gertz one today, 433 and some odd cents, but I gave up to Dave this morning.
and Dave would know more details if you guys want to talk to him, but it sounds like the electrician came in first, wired the source, wired the thermostat, and then I think Gertz came in.
I believe it was opposite.
Oh, opposite,
I think-
okay.
Yep,
I don't know, it's just, it's working today.
So it's working today and you got it figured out.
we'll continue to monitor and we can let you know if there's any issues. And then I'll let Penny do her environmental health update unless there's any other questions on that, but.
Not hearing none, so.
I'll do my
Penny.
Okay, February activity, we had one tank go in the ground, surprisingly. They'll finish that leach field at a later time. We, submitted out 3 binding agreements, 2 in New Hampton, 1 in Alta Vista. There was no new time of transfers and no well permits for February. We did 27, private wells for testing. 29 were bacteria, 28 were nitrates, and 23 were arsenic and manganese. I'm still waiting for approval on the second quarter billing that we submitted. I do know that there was a staff turnover, so there's a new person doing our claims, so it's taking a little while. But we don't reimburse the plugging in wells for first or second quarter until we get paid by the state, just so you know, and then we send them out to the homeowners.
And that's around 9,000, about 900, about 10,000.
Yeah, about 10,000, yep.
To come in, so.
Which is good. We had one new well plugging in Nashua, one New Hampton dog bite. We continue to schedule water tests. An update on the infrastructure grant. We now have 2 approvals, 2 denials, and 4 are pending. We just received word that now that the ground's thawed, we have to do side evals before we can submit, which is no big deal now that we can dig a hole and take a look. And then I just continue to send out postcards. We sent out 43 postcards in February and I did tested 27, so that's pretty good response on those postcards.
So what were those denials for?
The denials were actually both in void and they said they weren't considered an unsewered community. So they kicked them back.
Okay.
Now, if they ever do open it up to anybody that has an illegal or failing system, we already have the applications that we can resubmit them in, but for right now.
Yeah, so like Penny said, there's gonna be different levels of this, so she kept the applications in case they fit in somewhere else. But the list that we got from, I think we got our list from Ray, it was, in our eyes, considered a sewer community,
Unsewered, yeah.
or unsewered, sorry, but in the state, it's not considered one.
Really? They don't have pipes in the ground?
No, and I think after kind of looking at it, their definition of an unsewered community is any houses or a cluster of houses, 10 or more. They have to be on 10 acres of land, but half of those 10 houses need to be updated. So I'm guessing that some of those houses didn't, they didn't meet the definition, so there's probably only a few. But Boyd was actually on the DNR's list as what they consider as unsewered communities. So that's why I sent out letters to them. That's where I started with the communities on the DNR's list first. And I only sent out 80 letters and people are still calling, so I haven't really extended it past those communities that the DNR has identified.
And then for public and home health, if nobody has any more questions for her. In February, we had 96 different clients, 15 of those were Medicare, 24 were Medicaid. We had 15 total referrals, 8 admissions, we had 7 failed admissions, and the reasons for those were, my opinion is they're letting them out of the hospital too early, so we admit within 24 to 48 hours after they go home. And before we can even get there in 24 hours, they're going back to the hospital, some of them went hospice, some of them actually had to go back and have another surgery done. So, there's not much we can do about those, but, and then some didn't meet criteria. 19 discharges, we had 8 visits that were non-billable. We did 238 nursing visits, 278 home care aide visits, and 336 homemaker visits. Our QAPI program, we've been working on that, which stands for Quality Assessment Performance Improvement. And this is a program, it's a requirement by Medicare, and pretty much it's just working on improving processes and things like that. So we're finishing working on pain interfering with activity and improvement with bathing. And we're gonna start working on dyspnea or shortness of breath, and then management of oral medications and self-care. This is voted on quarterly at our Board of Health meeting, so they voted on that. We made changes to the employee physical examination requirements policy. So what was in there before is that we would do a TB test on hire, and then we would do it yearly or bi-yearly. And when I checked with the state, you only have to do it now because they changed it on hire and if they were exposed. So you don't have to do them any more often than that, and this will save us money because we were paying for the serum to do the tests. So, but we do have some on hand, and we do charge $25 per dose if somebody would come in. There's 10 doses per vial, so the vial costs $93.27, so we're actually making $156.73 per vial. So we'll continue to do that. We do continue to offer tetanus vaccines at $63 per tetanus vaccine if anybody's interested in that. We went over the agency financial management policy and the county policies, or county board of health policy, and we just fixed a couple typos, no other, anything needed to be done there. We did approve a new sliding scale for our private pay clients, so we currently have 14 on, and the new prices will go in effect on April 1st. So this should increase our revenue by at least $298.21 per month, or about maybe $3,000 to $4,000 per year. So we're kind of looking at different avenues, like the sliding scale and stuff, and researching more things that we can get revenue in, or different changes where we can change it to increase the revenue too. We did have Aaron Barkema, I don't know how to say your name, come and talk to us regarding what the state calls flipping the checkbook. So this is where the state grant would only pay for public health programs, like me going out to schools maybe, or our foot clinics, or immunizations, or blood pressures and things like that. And then so right now you guys pay for that, but it would flip. And you guys would pay for the home health, and they would pay for all of the public health. So right now we only have 14 clients on out of the 96 that I said. So it will not be any increase to our budget or anything, it's just a flip. And like I said, we're looking at different ways to bring in more revenue or change it so it would cost you guys less. And if we did flip the checkbook, we do have more room to do that, because we don't have to follow the guidelines of the state grant. So, it would allow us to reach more people for public health programming. And like I said, we could make adjustments. But Aaron, and that's kind of all we did. So me and Aaron are working on a workbook to show you guys how it would affect everything. And then once we present that to the Board of Health, we'll bring that up here and explain everything to you guys.
So is that supposed to be for next year? Checkbook flips?
Yes, it would be. It would affect, well, it won't even affect the budget. We could do it now and it wouldn't affect it at all. Really, because we're not gonna be asking for any more money or anything like that. Our hopes is that by flipping it to, number one, it's a state requirement that they're moving towards that. But number two, we have a little bit more room to bring in more revenue, is our thoughts.
So with that new revenue, are you providing any new services or?
We will be a little bit more public health services, I would say.
Okay.
I have been brainstorming ideas of what we can do. I've reached out to a couple people. So an example would be this month is colon cancer awareness month. And I know two individuals, one that I used to work with, and they're younger than me, and they've been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. So, I mean, I know different family members of mine who have had it too. So, and of course, like, health is a passion for me. So anyways, I reached out to them to see if they'd be willing to write their story, and we can put it out maybe on our new website and Facebook page and things to get the word out. And we can, you know, by working with them and getting the public health piece out there, we can collect on that for my time for doing that. So of course, it's gonna help how many people who read that. And I don't know if the newspaper, since you're sitting over there, or radio would like to team up with me too. Maybe we can do a story or something like that too. So get the word out. But we do have the team, we kind of came together and we have different ideas. We just have to, it takes time.
Put them together?
Yep, put them together and all that good stuff, so.
Okay.
And then we did find an education software, it's called HealthStream. So actually I used this when I worked at Waverly Hospital. So this allows us to do HIPAA training on there, bloodborne pathogen training. The nurses can do their CEUs, we can do safety and compliance on there. We can do our own classes, make our own classes up. We can take stuff on like classes on the revenue cycle and how to bring in more money. And I can assign classes to staff and things like that. So they will continue to do their normal like daily duties, but this will just give us more flexibility and actually save money in the long run. Because instead of saying, okay, we're gonna cut off services today for home health clients at this time, we're gonna do an hour in service. Well, that's, that's cutting off revenue really, if you look at it. Where if we had this software, we can say, if you have a patient cancel or something, get on there and do some of your education. That way we're still meeting the requirements. All of the education, instead of paying for it here and here and here at different places, it's a one-stop shop. So really it's gonna help with our revenue, in my opinion. So the startup cost for it's $2,000 and annually it's $1,019.34, which adds up to be about $84.95 a month or $4.72 per month per staff member. So it's not horrible if you break it down like that. And again, instead of paying for a class here and there, classes are $200 a piece or whatever, this would help, I think. So they offer tons of different stuff. So our board did vote to go ahead and do that. I did go over how Medicare pays. So Medicare pays based off of, I think I put it in here. Hopefully I can take it out. I probably should have had this pulled up. So how Medicare pays us is based off of 3 different things. Our OASIS questions, they have 5 different OASIS questions, our claims, and our surveys that we send out to our patients. So in the OASIS, they look at improvement with shortness of breath, discharge to the community, improvement in oral medications, and then a couple self-care and mobility questions. So they pick those out and they see if they get better from admission to discharge. And if they do, then they pay us more. We get more points. Sometimes people don't get better. Sometimes they're at their baseline. They're never gonna improve in shortness of breath or whatever. So that kind of is a disadvantage. Claims. So if a patient that we take on is rehospitalized or goes to the emergency room within the first 60 days, we get a deduction on our payment.
But you don't know what the deduction will be,
Right.
amount wise.
It's either they put it together a whole year and it's either 5% up or 5% down from what we currently are. But like I explained, sometimes before we can even get them admitted to our services, they're back in the
They're back
hospital.
in the hospital. Like you
So-
just explained earlier.
Right. And then our surveys, so our surveys are sent out and they look at like professional care and the rating of the home health agency and stuff. There's 5 different questions. However, you have to have at least, I think it's 49 surveys come back in. Well, when we only have 96 patients, like all of them would have to do the survey or we don't get points for that. So I just kind of wanted to give you guys an idea of this is how Medicare's paying. And they pay based off of different, on our assessment, it's called a HIPS code. The system generates it based off of how we answer the questions. There's 34,000 different ways to pay. So I can't give you a number like this is what they're gonna pay because there's a whole bunch of different combinations. But our yearly rate, like our yearly base rate is based off of what I just told you. So I just kind of wanted to explain that.
Are they still slow at paying? I mean, when you have a claim in, does it take 3-4 months or 6 months?
Not necessarily, however,
Okay.
now they have moved to, we can't even bill until we're done with the services. So if the patient's on for 2 months, we have to wait until after to bill for the service. So a couple of years ago, we would get paid like at the front of the service. And then all of a sudden they said, we're gonna move, we're gonna pay you half now and half at the end. And then now they're paying us at the
All
end.
at the end.
Yeah,
And you can't send a claim in until you finish it.
right, yep.
Wow.
We send one in at the beginning to notify them that there's an episode going on, but then we can't technically bill for the whole thing until the end. So this is how the
So that's
government
gonna,
works.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
going to,
Nothing bad for, yeah. And then we do have to remember too, like I said, they look at those different things and we go up 5% or down 5% or stay the same. So this year, or next year, they're gonna start looking at it and based off of how we do next year, they pay us in 2025 based off of that. So it's 2-year lag time. So even though like we're doing really good now, it won't show for 2 years, kind of thing. So just different, so to help you guys understand, like this is what we deal with, and this is why it's not black and white, and we don't say, okay, you owe us $100 and they give us $100. There's lots that goes into that. So And then the public health, the budget part of it, the revenue this month, we brought in $95,220.62. I anticipate that we will be making more than we thought for revenue. Cause we only have $165,912.79 to reach our goal. And if we brought 95,000 in this month, I anticipate that we'll bring in more, just kind of for an idea for you guys. For expenses this month, our activity was about 91,000. So that means we were in the positive, I guess you would consider it, $3,247.85. For environmental health, like she said, we're still waiting for that $9,000 to $10,000 check, so that will help the revenue. And expenses this month for environmental health were about 6,500, so she's right on track for her budget, and we did not need a budget amendment. I'm also talking to Mike from HR on different wage scales. It was discussed with our board, I guess, to do different wage scales, like steps and things like that. So I'll talk to him on the 31st and see what we can come up with for them. So for COVID-19, we had 25 new cases as of the meeting. This month I looked it up and we only had 7 cases this whole month so far, and none since the 14th of March. They did increase our deaths by 1. I did look into this, and I don't agree with it. They had a terminal illness and they haven't had COVID for 2 years. So I don't know how they consider it a COVID death. But I mean, they do, so just reporting that. I don't agree with it, but I'm not the one who judges that, so. We did have 1 E. coli case that I investigated. And then I continue every month to hand out TB medications to 2 individuals who have latent TB. So I have to do an assessment on them every month and then switch their medications and make sure they've been compliant with taking those. There was a formula recall which resulted in 2 deaths, and some of that formula was distributed to WIC. So we're kind of watching that just to make sure nobody in Chickasaw County gets anything. And then of course the avian flu, we're watching that, and I will have to, if any flocks around here get it, I will have to monitor them for 10 days, so. Got that going on. Immunization grant, we billed out about $975. The COVID grant, $511. The emergency preparedness grant, $470. And the state grant, just about $5,000. They did an amendment to our emergency response grant, and we're getting $7,278 more of COVID money. And that's to be used for things that were at the beginning of COVID. So we can, I don't know why they're giving us that, but we'll take it, we can use it and bring in more revenue for our county. We did have to buy, so for our immunization fridges, we have to have what's called data loggers, and it tells the temp on the fridges. We had to order 2 more because you have to have backups. And I did look into it, and I got one of the grants to pay for those. So we're gonna be reimbursed for those. Let's see. And then other things we're working on, those are the big things. We're continuing immunizations, emergency preparedness plans, we're looking at those. Healthy foot clinics, we do blood pressure screenings. State survey preparation, we're doing our China HIP, which is Community Health Needs Assessment and Health Improvement Projects, that's a requirement. We're working with EMA on making sure our MOUs are updated with all of the businesses and things. We're setting up training exercises also with EMA. We're working together to find, like I said, new revenue ways and how we can make changes and things like that. One thing I did want to ask, there is a storage room at the basement of the law office that they cleared out, Dave and Tim did. Wondering if we can get our stuff out of the social, room?
The event center or the.
Yes, and
or
then.
out of your room down here, in the
Yeah.
service building.
Yep, so we're gonna take it out of there, so it would just be the DHS building or office again. So we would take our extra supplies out to the law office into that cleared spot in the basement and put some of our like walkers and canes and stuff in there too, so we're not in that walkway. You seen that when you went back there. So just wondering if that's okay for us to do and put in the basement there.
It's in that room off of the garage.
I don't see no concern. When's the auction for those wooden chairs?
I already have it in the newspaper, and you guys are opening the sealed bids on April 4th. So it's up and coming.
And we would of course wait until
Yeah,
that
so we
time.
got that. We clear.
And I know that they got rid of the stuff that you allowed them to get rid of down there already. So that's cleaned up.
Has DHS want that building back or that office?
They do not, but if we had to clean it out fast, it's full. Like it's staffed from floor to, I don't know if anybody's been down there and seen it, it's full.
But DHS pays us for that space, and I don't want to miss that opportunity of.
That's why I'm like, if there's another space and we can have it out of the way,
How often do you think you get to it?
that the supplies in the DHS office, not very often, the walkers and canes and stuff, it just depends on if somebody needs supplies, so if they do, we can run down there and grab it.
Want to make that decision now or after the auction?
I don't see it. Yeah, I would wait till after the auction.
Right.
Okay.
That's fine, yeah.
Okay.
Unless somebody else needs it. I guess I haven't heard.
I haven't heard nothing either. Big storage.
So you want to approve the use of the space later or now pending the removal of said objects or items that are on the auction? Or do you want to rediscuss it
I
again?
think
I
we
just don't want the general public to have to walk through all this other stuff.
No, and we wouldn't put anything down there until everything is cleared out and Tim and Dave give us the okay, so.
I'm okay with
I'll
that.
approve that until after the auction is done.
Okay.
sounds like we have a consensus that we will approve of it. Once we get through the auction and get rid of those items down.
Thank you.
All right.
Go back
That
to
it?
Penny. Was February or March right on one?
January was.
How's that coming, I guess?
January.
People buying kits?
Oh, yeah, yep. She put that message out on our Facebook and things like that too, and that sparked a huge, how many did we have that?
Well, that one day when I posted that story, we had 5 people walk in and get tips that day. But yeah, we sell them pretty regularly each month.
All right, thank you.
I think it'll help too, once the website's going and we can
Yeah.
put things on our Facebook and our website, I think it's gonna be huge for.
They did a nice job on the radar part. I got a little preview of mine.
Since you're up here, I know Penny said she didn't need one, but this probably helped with the budget amendment.
We do not.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there's any other further questions? All right, thank you. Yeah. Mhm. Moving on down, 9:45, we have Roman Lunson here with Secondary Roads Department update. Good morning, Roman.
Guys? So starting with the 14th, the week prior to the 14th, then we had one snow ice event on Monday, March 7th. We had southern half one-ways, 4 one-ways out, covering those routes. Motor graders have been out the last couple weeks, pulling in some rock. They did get 4 good days of some blading in last week prior to the rain on Friday. Let's see. We're working on our detours for the 2 bridge projects coming up on Kenwood and then also over on Quinlan, South Fredericksburg. We held a pre-con for the one south of Fredericksburg. They anticipate construction to start early April, which is identical to the one on Kenwood. I did have Spencer went out and looked, got a map from Northeast Iowa CRD, basically possibility of flood mitigation projects on the East Fork Wapsie. As of now, it's just kind of in a preliminary stage. We got 30 some, I believe, on-road locations that would be involving our roadways and easements and landowners. They did state in the email something about, the county attaining grants
Shut the
and this
door,
and
just
that.
halfway. Yeah. Thank you, Dave. Go ahead.
So, yeah, that, I mean, I don't think the county's gonna be able to pay for all that by any means. And as far as locations, there's still a lot of preliminary work to be done. But they mentioned a lot of grants. I don't know if we gotta just go out and find those or if the CRD has involvement in that, because we're learning more. I'm sure there's gonna be another meeting in Fredericksburg coming up, which I'll notify you guys about if you wanna attend.
That's RC&D, right? That's CRD's, RC&D, that's also.
Somebody's gonna check your email since CRD. We did have the windmill project. They hired a company of surveyors. You guys probably maybe noticed them throughout the county. They basically came in and got all our section corner information. Let's see, this past week we were stripping a lot of winter equipment off trucks and motor graders, a lot of cold patching out on B18, north of Highway 18, and then also on B56 south of Highway 18. Pulling a little bit of rock in from previous floods, still with the wheeled excavator. Brushing crews are still out. As far as engineers department, doing a lot of design work on Blazix Bridge. Project administration, getting ready for those two to start. I did have an intercog meeting on Thursday. I know Matt was in attendance virtually. They had an increase in funding this year, and instead of myself and Brian Kylie from Buchanan County said it'd be nice if we could divvy this dollars up to previously programmed ones, like B18 for us, which kind of maybe running into a snag on that if our FM account isn't able to rebound to absorb the extra cost. We fought for about $1.1 million at Intercog. While Dusty did this probably 2 years ago or when they were programming for that year. 1.1 million out of a $3.3 million project, so our farm to market account would absorb that $2 million plus. That's back when it was estimated at $400,000 a mile for PC overlay. Now you're looking probably over $500,000. So my thoughts are, if we can't fully fund that project up to all the city limits, might have to cut it short. Do what we can with the money we got. So I don't know if it'd be go maybe all the way to the Caldwell turnoff or the bridge north Washington, and then wait for our account to rebound or maybe find additional funding somewhere and then complete the project in years to come. Otherwise, I don't know what to do. I don't want to postpone that project to do it all in one shot because we're already getting plenty of calls on that road. So
It's falling apart pretty fast.
and the south end is the worst. So of course that'd be what we focus on, but we'll see. I know they're saying there might be an increase in farm to market dollars and well everything, but I don't think the increase that I've gathered is not going to offset these price increases. The Iowa DOT meeting was on Friday, and they kind of figured out you'll probably see about a 12% increase. You're fine.
In projects, in highway projects.
But we're also seeing
a lot more.
about a 30% increase in costs, so it's not, it's not as grand and great as everyone seems to
So,
hope or think it is.
so if you don't think you could complete that project, would you look at the North Washington Road and just try to get 3 miles of that done? I mean, that's
That's what I'm talking
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So just do 3 miles there. I know it might be a little more higher cost for you to move in for 3 miles.
That's what I'm saying, that we get to Washington with that bridge, like
Yes.
Hostage.
Yeah, that's what we are doing.
That's what you're hoping
It's not
for.
much I mean, we can try to get it, I mean, we're already borrowed about as far ahead in our farm to market as we can. So now we're just letting it rebound,
Mhm.
but
But we do have about 600,000 in loss at 40% too. My numbers are correct. That's what we paid for those 2 patches before,
mhm.
which might get you mile and a half.
Yeah, get you another mile or a little over. Which, yeah, I mean, I just wanted to keep that on your guys' radar too. I was trying to get them to allocate more funding than previously programmed, but they said, well, historically, we don't do that, so they put all the money in the things they programmed for 2026. So good for the city of Independence, I guess, because we have like $1.5 million. Let's see, aside from that, we did go out and look at B18, located a lot of PIs that we could find, and just general preliminary stuff, trying to get a game plan going. Contract rock letting will be next Monday, 10 a.m. Let's see on that.
Did you pull back the tonnage already or not? Not normally.
I wouldn't say the total tonnage, but we did pull it back to cover roads that needed it. You know, I think we went from, it's 400 and 300, we went to a 250 or 275. We pretty much just decreased the tonnage per mile to get more roads covered, but.
Any other county got their bids back yet, or are we gonna be the first one next week? But you know,
I guess I haven't visited with anyone, heard anybody say, at least not surrounding us.
so the board did approve your budget last week. Have you looked at any new equipment so we get them ordered before?
Jason is working on a Mack truck. He was gonna look into the cat motor grader, trying to, I think John Deere, he's getting something from John Deere as far as just general to keep cat honest. Trucks, as far as light passenger, light duty trucks, I don't know if they're even gonna be available. I know he said that Ford and Chevy were pretty much, didn't look like it was even gonna be available at all, and he said he was gonna look into Dodge. So,
This discussion, since your next staff is coming in May, do you guys have enough vehicles for the engineer's office?
vehicles,
Vehicles,
I can use my personal one if needed, but, yeah, I guess no.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to get to for you. 'Cause, yeah,
That's why we were, put those two trucks, one, you know, one of the foreman's trucks has like 280,000 miles on it. So that needs to be replaced, and then we're gonna utilize the other one for the engineer's office. So I can use a spare if we have it, or one of the assistants can, or I'll use my own vehicle. I don't know what else to do, you know. Make a vehicle magically appear.
just wanna make sure the equipment when their two assistants go out and
Yeah, I don't know what else to do though. One of the sheriffs is off or something, and take their car, that'd be fun.
we got a courthouse room.
A blue one.
A blue, oh, you mean, David, their truck?
Yeah,
That,
I think that's what he was alluding to.
I might be in worse shape than that county truck.
Probably. No, we'll get it to work out somehow.
Still got a van.
Well,
Yes.
that's gonna have to go to project, so.
Thank you.
I had a question from a resident, uncontrolled intersections in 150th and Kenwood, been some accidents there. Is there any thoughts that any, LaSalle, Kenwood,
Is that the one we
Jasper,
discussed?
all are uncontrolled?
Not that one, but
Didn't know if there's ever been a
what
thought
we
about
discussed last time.
That
Stop
is
sign.
that
Isn't that-
intersection we did discuss last,
Yeah, I was wondering.
before Steve got here. And I probably know who you're talking to, because, yeah, there's been, what, two on Kenwood 150th. Yeah, and I know we've had that issue with stop signs. Rome, you can tell Steve how much, two stop signs, two stop ed signs, I mean, you're looking at $900, isn't it?
Yeah, I kind of brought it up just years ago why we don't, and it ended up being, it's a lot of money, and then people don't follow them anyways.
Yeah,
I guess
Brought it to
I'm
me.
torn as far as the effectiveness on it. To me, I think honestly that, I don't know how many people would actually answer the question correctly on who's supposed to yield. You know, it's yield to your right, but a lot of people don't know that. So, you know, is it better to have a stop sign in there so then you basically guilt can be attributed to somebody instead of.
Yes.
It is better to have that, I would assume, yeah. So, there's been
Uncontrolled
accidents.
intersections are always an issue though, so I mean, there'll be lawsuits in the state of Iowa on uncontrolled intersections and tragically accidents regardless of what any jurisdiction does. Just part of rural Iowa, unfortunately. Sadly.
To expand also, I believe that when that accident happened, you guys looked at like the crops to see if they were creeping, you know, and that was not the case either. So, and I believe there was some substance.
Honestly, I wish there could be a program
Issue.
for farmers to put cover crops or something in there that's not gonna block those intersections.
definitely.
You
it's
know, like
much worse than
250, 300 yards back or whatever stopping distance would be your site. You know, at all intersect, I know that never happened, but that would be effective.
There'd be hay in every field.
But I guess I'm more than willing to look at the accident history on that, and if you guys want me to put stop signs there, you can put stop signs there.
I think you have it you gave it to us last time and we can just pull it and give you a copy of it and Or-
Yeah.
not you, that your previous, sorry.
The bad part is,
Previous
what we
idea.
decided last time is if we put stop signs there, where do we stop?
I would say a resident brought it up to me and I.
No, I understand.
My choice down here was Admission and 220th, because there was 2 accidents in 3 years. I think if that data shows more people using that road to go to the South Industrial Park, you know, to avoid their travel issues, that's what needs to be proven. More travel or accidents occurring more often. Then I can justify the $900. And then it comes down to what traffic do you want to stop? Eastbound, northbound, southbound? You know, that's which roads travel more, 150th or Kenwood, or go south, or so
Yeah, you'd want to stop to lower traffic.
you would. And you have those counts.
Yeah, we have go back years or. Yeah, I don't know if you guys, how you want to create some sort of a policy for when you do update it. It needs a certain amount of percentage traffic ADT and a certain number of accidents or just the ADT.
Since it's the spring of the time, it was Pembroke Avenue staying together, north of Jericho.
Lakeview sent an email asking how many people we have. They wanted it, which I said, don't worry about it, but they said, thank you for all the hard work and it's doing good.
Good.
We'll see in the coming weeks.
Yeah. 'Cause I don't think the frost is quite out yet, but it's coming.
I still think the roads are 100% better than they have been.
The dry fall and you get pretty lucky, especially the fall, I think. Not having that moisture and then getting frozen.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Roman.
Have a good day.
Moving on down the agenda, we discussed utilizing the courthouse as an emergency shelter in case of severe weather or rag drive.
The last time they were here in 2017, I believe we said no for the liability issue. And how many people can we actually hold? The fire marshal, if there was a tornado warning in New Hampton or Chickasaw County. I'm gonna stay with no, I decided 17 also.
I decided no. I mean, this, if we just leave it to the first floor, we wouldn't be able to house that many.
The same request came in 17 also,
Who'd the request come from, Bragbri?
I think so.
This one came, I got an email from Megan Gleason asking if the board would discuss it.
And that's what your opinion would be, no, this is liability, or, I mean,
Yeah, you're inviting them in. Not only something happens to the building, but if there's damage inside the building, who's gonna monitor it? Who's gonna open it? What's the criteria gonna be? What happens if there's actual tornado warning issued and 5,000 people want in, you only have room for 500?
For 50.
What do the rest of them do? Do they jam in there? And what happens if there's a stampede? My mind goes trial lawyer crazy thinking about it, so.
I did talk to Jeff as well, because he questioned it too, and he just said that we really can't house that many people.
No.
He said maybe 20 to 30, in that basement, the boiler room area, where you go down the steps and stuff. That's about it.
It's unfortunate because they do need somewhere to go and do need some sort of plan, but it's the old adage, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, so you do it out of the goodness of your heart and it comes back in the ass. I mean, that's unfortunately what happens a lot of times in life. That's what you're made that way in this world, unfortunately. So I would advise no, but
Okay.
from a legal perspective.
You Steve? I'll say no. You say no, okay.
Consensus
All
of
right,
the
we have
board.
consensus to not provide any shelter.
I mean, the courthouse is open that day, so we're not gonna be a designated tornado shelter.
Right. Like the thing says, how many can we fit in courthouse? And if we still have some of our employees there
We'll
too,
have
so,
staff, we're open
I
on
mean,
Friday,
yeah.
so.
okay, moving on then to, we're gonna meet with Marty at 10:15, we have 3 minutes left. And we can do a committee assignment update within 3 or 4 minutes.
I had an executive CSS meeting on 16. I attended through phone. The second half property tax allocation request will be voted on this Wednesday. I think it's going to be due by April 15th to the region. The executive board had a very good discussion on the exception of policy. What is that going to look like come July 1st from DHS, if they're going to approve or disapprove those exception policies? So they become the financial region.
So this would be consider our last payment,
Yes.
and then it's final.
So we are
No.
trying to do a budget amendment also at CSS, it's in my book, because they wanna spend more of we're supposed to be down to 50% in fund balance by June, and we're gonna be over that. So I think there's a budget amendment coming also for Wednesday to allocate more funds to IRSH, what do you serve on?
Juvenile detention.
Yeah, so we're gonna get those checks out, so we can show that we're kind of at 50%. Because the state's gonna take over, they're gonna watch that fund. I think that's why they chose to go to the DHS funding out there. And then the Fund 10 came up again, because if we have to do a budget amendment, that Fund 10, they want that check too, into the CSS region soon, right after the allocation, even though, so.
So the guidance on that is it needs to be distributed by June 30th of 22. The initial guidance that I had received said, oh, well, after June 30th, then it's dollars that stay in the county. Well, that's not the case anymore. They've changed their mind. So we've not even allowed for any expenditure to take place out of that fund for FY 22-23. So if we have some delinquent tax dollars that roll in, I cannot distribute those funds until after we have a budget amendment.
So what's that dollar amount they're gonna do for juvenile detention? Do they have it earmarked for something or?
That's for that building expansion.
Okay,
Remodel, building expansion.
I was wondering if they could expand that to include a transportation car.
I know looking at Howard County, Howard County bought one for the house, the ambulance, I believe. Brady Norman's, they might give that to the CSS region for a transport vehicle, but Howard County's working with that. So that might help out the north to get them down the water wheel. So there is talk out there, I think that's why the CSS board gave $200,000 to Wakana Hospital for that expansion for mental health there too. It just seems, the budget amendment's like $1.7 million. Just because there's that much money in the fund balance. So that's 60% county funds and 40% state funds. Yeah, I mean,
I'm just gonna, they put another, what, a $4,000 motor in a vehicle that's got 200,000 miles on it. So I mean, how safe is that at sometimes?
some of the budget amendment remarks, $200,000 for the Veterans Memorial Hospital, increased MHI costs, increased usage War Hospital ER evaluations, NIRS, what's the East Iowa Residential Service, building purchase, remodel for youth, and remodel for adult crisis.
Oh, into the other side of the building.
Yeah. Yeah. Elevate, a building remodel, inspiring lives, access Medicare faster than expected. Start funding February through June. Yeah. All that is in about $1.7 million budget amendment that we're gonna vote on Wednesday. So, it's a problem, I guess, when you have too much money, you gotta spend down, but hopefully it goes to the need of, I don't know.
All right, thank you, Jacob. We've got 10:17. Morning, Marty.
Morning.
So, gotta discuss the law enforcement contract, City of Nashville.
Yeah, so, I've, spoken last week to the county attorney. And, I guess this is, if anything, a response to the 21 changes of the city of Nashua. Had suggested to the proposed law enforcement contract. So, did you guys all get a copy of this?
I think you
sent to-
emailed it.
I emailed that on Thursday.
Yeah, I seen email, from Dave.
Do you want printed copies?
I guess I would,
Yeah.
Okay.
if you could.
I
Yeah.
believe Dave sent it to me as well, so I can do that.
You print it, you have a color printer, it's easier to read from the color.
I can print it to Ray's office. I don't have color.
You have a color in your office?
No? Well, in my backpack printer, but yeah. Well, yeah. Back printer.
Oh.
Back in your office.
Yeah. Let me go get that one.
I guess I'm gonna ask this very nicely. I asked lots of questions. Is there any feedback from the mayor or any council members of the articles in the paper? I know Stephanie told me that they're looking for a lot of budgets for you and stuff like that. I guess Stephanie, what's Alex gonna request?
Alex requested the total expenditure and revenue, anything that pertained to the sheriff's department.
What are you trying? I mean, I visited with you Thursday and Friday. You said Alex has sent you some emails. I mean, what are they? As a supervisor, I think we need to know what they're up to. I know these are all public documents, but
And Alex is who?
the mayor.
The mayor of Nashville.
Yeah, so, he had sent me on the 17th, so Thursday, a request. And like you guys, I mean, when you guys were new to the board and everything else, and Dave, when you were, started out stuff, you want to gather information, you want to get information, you want to make good decisions, and, Alex is no different. He's not afraid to ask for information. So he sent me a email Thursday that he's reviewing the law reports from the sheriff's office.
Now, the mayor has also been a councilman for 4 years prior to being mayor, so it's not like he's never had any exposure whatsoever to the law reports or me presenting them or anything of that. But now he wants to look through them, so he said he wants to get a breakdown of the hours worked for the last few months, or if available for the past year. So additionally, he wants to get a copy of the dispatch log because there was some reference as far as how many calls deputies responded to. And so, because they were kind of, a while back, looking to see how many hours are they going to require or want or whatever like that. And so I said, yeah, okay, we had 1,011 this year, we had 900 and something this year, we had this many the year before. So I asked for some clarification. I said, what are you exactly asking for? Well, so he was wanting it broke down on how many hours we spend on, checking businesses, how many on stationary patrol, how many on routine calls, how many on welfare checks, how many on traffic calls. I mean, he was asking for a lot. And then he had asked for dispatch logs. Well, if we had 1,000 calls for service in Nashville last year, I mean, he's asking myself, my chief dispatcher, to spend a lot of hours. And then if he wants these sheets, these call sheets, that's gonna be over 1,000 pages just for 1 year. Who pays for that? I mean, we're all busy. I can't just drop everything and then provide him 1,000 sheets for, whatever, but I'm trying to provide him with whatever I can. So anyway, while I did that, actually I came up with some interesting things. Jake stopped by Friday, I believe it was. And so actually I'm just gonna share this with you or anybody else too. So this just shows in the year 2021, how many hours were required by the contract, how many hours we provided. Thank you. Okay,
Did it change?
it just looks a little neater, nicer. Polished up. So anyway, I guess one thing, I have always tried, whether it's Fredericksburg, whether it's Nashua or for Chickasaw County, to provide a very good service, give them what they ask for, and then some. I wanted to keep them happy. But it's interesting that we provided an additional 145 hours at no charge to them. So if we would have billed them out for what we charged them, it would have been over $8,000. That, I guess you can say that we've lost revenue. So I just wanted to, so I also emailed this number to the mayor, and I said, look, we spent in January 260.5 hours, providing routine checks, providing welfare checks, providing, doing this. So I could not actually break it down and say, okay, we spent on this day 51 minutes doing business checks and, 81 minutes doing this or whatever, but this is what I gave them because it was the quickest, the easiest, and it's impossible to say, on this given day, we spent this many minutes, we spent this many minutes and stuff. So I haven't heard anything since, and I have not provided any dispatch logs. I didn't have enough time on Friday, but I just want to share that with you. Jake, I guess you asked me a question, and I just got rambled on.
No, you're good. Yeah, that was kind of my point. I was, 145 hours at that rate for those 2 fiscal years, 6 months, and that's why, maybe it should be in the new contract. If we go over the 200 hours or whatever it is, what's the rate at that point? And I think we did fix that, $105 an hour.
Yeah.
Because this is what your department was doing for City of Nashua.
Yeah, that year and the previous years, and likewise in Fredericksburg as well. So anyway, if you guys all have the colored copies there, I'll let Dave kind of maybe go through the different changes or things. He put this together, did a wonderful job with it. So I guess I'd let him maybe explain our response.
So if you have color copies, so red is changes that Marty and I decided we would not accept. Green is changes that we would accept, and then blue is changes that we want to add in since they're negotiating the whole thing. So those are the green changes that we are accepting, are editorial changes. Some of the other changes Marty and I talked about last week are already ongoing practices, so you'll see that noted throughout. There's an explanation for every change there in the right, whether we accepted it or not and why we accepted it. Couple of the changes is we left it in there 2,400 hours at 105 per hour if they go over that number. So Jake, you just asked about that. 120 hours, no less than 120 hours per month. It's kind of the numbers we talked about last meeting, last Monday. And then if you flip forward to the bottom of page 3, that's probably the most important part. That's the fees section. We left it at $168,000. That's the hard costs for all the services. Based upon the hours, quarterly payments, so that number did change. They wanted the termination changed from 60 days to 30 days, or from 30 days to 60 days. I think it should stay 30, especially with quarterly payments. If they do that and they're in default, they get basically 2 months for free, which is a bad idea. Then probably the most controversial one that I can see that they're gonna have is the last page or 2, page 4, basically, and page 5. It talks about how they wanted reimbursement for the greater of the expenses to provide police protection for 12 months, and some other issues that they had, savings agreement, those types of things. My opinion is, the whole purpose of the contract is to limit each party's liability. So you'll see an explanation in there. The bottom line is, the most the county's gonna be on the hook for financially would be to reimburse the city in the event the county was in default, the county received notice of default, and the city terminated the contract. So for example, they decided next summer or next fall that Marty wasn't doing what they wanted. They said, hey, we're gonna send you notice. And Marty said, that's how we're gonna do it. We're not changing our policy for you. And they said, okay, we're gonna terminate. We would, since they're prepaying, we would owe them for 30 days, basically, from the time of the notice to the time of termination. That's the limit of your guys' liability. We got rid of the section that obligates them to pay for time off and unemployment insurance, because I don't think that's an unknown number. You don't want to contract for unknown numbers, and we're going to reject their request to pay them for a full year's worth of police service if they cancel the contract. The bottom line is, if they want out, they want out. It's no different than I put in the explanation. Someone going to the store and buying a product, you buy it every day, and then also the store stops selling it. The store isn't obligated to let you buy it or reimburse you for buying it at a different store. The whole point of the contract is to limit your liability. So our liability is limited to reimbursing them for time that we're in default. If they cancel, their liability is limited to just what they're paying plus the interest. So neither party is going to contract to some unknown number. I don't think they should either. Neither party should contract to some unknown number that exposes them to liability. So that's kind of the gist of it. Marty and I, we left some things in there about city hall changes, the key to a different facility. That's fine. We're fine taking on evidence, but we're not taking over their evidence. So that's an ongoing practice we'll continue, but we're not going to clean out their locker or whatever they have down there, left over from cases can take charge of those. So I think it's, like I said, it's a pretty comprehensive response to all the things we will and will not agree to. And it's at that 168 number.
So let's, just for clerical error, that this won't be signed in March, so at the date.
Correct, yeah, we'll have to change that once, I mean, I don't know what they're gonna say. I mean, obviously you guys directed Marty to work on it last week and then bring it back, and I said, hey, if you guys say it looks good, then I'll just probably send them that document, or have Marty send them that document, the explanations, and if they agree to everything, then we'll make the changes and put together a final draft and circulate them with the parties and go from there. If they don't, then it's in your guys' court, so.
Looks good to me. Did they actually meet tonight?
Yeah, and I did get an email from the city clerk, asked if I was gonna be in attendance at tonight's meeting. Typically, I'm there the first of the month, give my law report, and I said, well, I typically done it the second one. I said, is the city requesting me to? No, we're just checking if you're, gonna be there. I said, okay, no, if you guys want me to, I will. Otherwise, I won't plan on it. I always do get a copy of their agenda. And it is on their agenda tonight to have discussion, so they can have discussion. So, but they don't have this here, so.
So once we say, okay, you could email this to them so they could have it before tonight's meeting to look over already.
Yeah, I could. I don't know, does that affect the whole 24 hours?
It's on their
It's-
agenda.
it's on there.
Yes, it's on there, yeah.
They're actually really for the
Yeah.
records.
So, yeah, if you guys want me to, give me the okay, I can, send this down to City Hall.
I think it's fine.
You okay?
I'm okay
Sure
with it,
you're
but I
okay?
think, yeah, I am. But Martin did ask me a question, and maybe we should have a discussion on it. This is not the same verbiage as Fredericksburg. Has Fredericksburg assigned theirs yet?
Yeah.
And the only pushback I see is the rate is different, but that comes down to my opinion of the dispatch phone line, that your staff is still taking care of that for them.
Yep.
And to me, that's the justification of the different rates.
Yep, so people in Nashua do call a local number down there, and it rings into our sheriff's office. So we are in fact answering that, number that has been there for many years.
Does the phone at 4 o'clock or 4:30 when they go home to City Hall also rotate it?
I don't believe so. There's two different numbers. There's one landline for the police department, one landline for City Hall. I think that I've even called City Hall, like even over the noon hour, and it just goes to a voicemail.
So the reason to me then is for the police phone number.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So there's consensus then to go ahead and have Marty present this to Nashville City Council,
Yeah.
whether you can get it down there today or.
Yep.
Okay.
It should be a problem.
Any other discussion? Okay, thank you, Marty.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll let you deliver this contract to them
Okay.
and see what their decision is tonight.
Okay.
We'll find out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on down the agenda, discussion FY 21-22 budget amendment.
So I sent out an email to the different department heads requesting to know if there needed to be any budget amendments made to their departments. I believe Marty is one of them. Marty wants to go over that.
Inflation, right, Marty?
Yeah. Gasoline. So I'm gonna just step out real quick and make some copies, because I
Sure.
don't think I did that, so that you guys can follow along. So, sure, okay.
So essentially, since he's leaving,
Any other departments responded yet?
no,
Okay.
except for public health responded today by saying they didn't feel that they needed. So the mental health expenditure work, I would like to increase by $50,000. Just because looking at what we have in there will be possibly left over, and then just going above that enough just in case we do get like some, delinquent taxes from the previous tax year that we didn't collect. I want to be able to increase that. So it's currently we budgeted $357,990, and I would like to bump that up to $407,990.
Is there any reason why we can't go higher than that?
There is no reason.
The only reason I'm asking is because we'll catch up and talk about shortly. On June 30th, there was a balance of 55,000.
Hmm.
So that would have been taxes paid in the CSS region.
That's 20 ending of, yeah,
Understand.
yeah.
But we didn't
Okay.
have staff, we didn't have any supplies.
Yeah.
So there could be more than the 50,000. So I'm just saying maybe we should go to 60 on that
Yeah.
budget amendment.
We can.
Just say so we don't have to do it again. We won't have time to do it again. Just on that issue there. Because that's a magic number. That number won't be determined until tax collection, their second payment, and then what's left in the fund balance.
Right, and we're collecting obviously right now because that fund is obviously increased
Correct.
to 80,458. So
And that would have been because something might have paid double full payment
payment.
in October. I just can't see more than 60,000 because there's no ins or outs except for the.
The payment we
Because
made.
you fixed that, remember when DHS was gonna take care of some of the funds? We lowered that for tax asking last fiscal year.
We lowered it down, yep,
So,
and now we're at 0 for 22-23
Correct.
levy rate. Yeah.
so the money coming in today in this month yet would be that lower rate.
Yes.
I'd be more happy at 60,000. Maybe we should go up to 70. It's appropriation.
I'm not gonna spend more than what there is in there, so we can't. We just gotta, whatever the balance is, that's what I have to send.
Correct.
Yeah, I'd rather make sure we have enough in there, so I'm okay with 70.
Yeah.
You can't spend it if you don't have it anyway, so it's not like it's not our money anyway.
Right, so then that would, yeah, so if you did the increase, it'd be up to 427,990. Okay,
Okay, no discussion there. We'll get back with Marty then.
Okay, so I just, did a couple numbers. So I asked the auditor's office last week to give me a, updated printout of budget. So this is half the way through the month of March, so there's some claims that were already done. So I guess technically, we would be about 71% through our budget as of the middle of March. So, and it shows that I've used 70.53%. And so I looked at the different service areas, uniform patrol, we spent 71%. Investigations, which is Ryan Schaver's service area, 66%. Communications, so dispatch, 67%. The jail portion, Jordan and the jail inmates, things like that, 69%. Under the administration, that's myself, 60%. Under the 1540, that's the service of civil papers, that would be KJ Miller and Steven Johnson, our canine handler. There was, let me see here, looks like 95%. That one jumps out at me, and the biggest reason that, well, there's a couple of reasons that's really kind of messed with my budget. We probably were on track, minus a couple events that happened this year or starting July. We all know the price of fuel has gone up, so the sheet that I just handed you there, I had budgeted for the entire department $42,900 for fuel, and we've already spent $40,075, so we've already spent 93%, and I don't think that number's probably gonna go down over the next couple of months. I mean, I think our $3 and $4 gas is probably gonna be here for, this end of this budget year. The next one, it's not a huge line item, but it makes a difference because I budgeted $3,500 for medical, things for inmates. We've had, I believe, 2 ambulance calls and a couple other things. So we've spent 176% of my budget there. The next one is our inmate lodging, and as of last Friday, former federal inmate, now in state's custody or Chickasaw County's custody, is Mr. Patry. And so Fayette County is charging me $60 per day. So if you figure out from last Friday through June 30th, the end of this budget year, we will be charged $6,300. So I budgeted $21,000 for housing inmates, and so far I've spent $25,230, and we do know that we will spend another $6,300. So we in essence spent a little over $10,000 of what we had budgeted there. The other big thing that really, kind of messed with my budget, of course, is that we had no vehicle budgeted in this budget year to replace a vehicle, and we had to replace a vehicle. So there is, $34,995 out of my budget for replacement of a vehicle. And then, we figured that with the vehicle that we have here, it's gonna be built with all the light and equipment and everything else on there. I will be seeing a, invoice roughly to the tune of $17,000 to build that vehicle. So that's another unplanned expense. So that's about $52,000. So I just added that 52,000. We went over by 10,350, or we will be. That's a minimum of housing inmates, and then we've already exceeded the other. So I'm coming up with, I could see us being short on this budget, if nothing else happens, about $65,000. So,
You have a total of the insurance checks for the vehicle that was total?
yeah, well, I wanna say, I don't have the exact number, but
That's fine.
I can look it up.
we did get payment, for $34,995 for the vehicle, and then also the equipment that was in the vehicle as well. And I wanna say that number was right around $52,000.
Total?
Yeah, so that money has been reimbursed to Chickasaw County, put in my revenue account. And so that's pretty close, right about 52,000 roughly.
So besides that, I mean, you're looking at $13,000 budget amendment,
Roughly.
but we have to appropriate 65,000.
So, and then just, Stephanie contacted me, Wednesday or Thursday or whatever. These are quick numbers and everything. Fortunately, Brad's gonna be here next, budget year and stuff. I'm just trying to project, June is a big month. We've got, Alta Vista, we've got Heartland Days, we've got Irish Fest, we've got, Water Over the Dam Days, and we've got, Dairy Days. So, you just keep your fingers crossed for the next couple of months.
So you think you're requesting the 65,199 or 70,000, or I guess definitely no line items?
Yeah, so like I said,
Yeah.
I put this together really quick just so that we could have some discussion on it.
Do we see any more unforeseen costs with the Patriot?
No,
I mean,
our biggest thing really is the housing him, and then all of his court appearances that require him to be back here are gonna be through the week. And so we've already got, our staff lined up to do that. It's not gonna be overtime.
do we have to pay for any witnesses to come back, or
Yeah, my budget,
that's all out of your budget?
my budget paid flying back here.
And probably not this was weird though. The trial.
The truck, well, his is arraignment on the 5th, 2 weeks from today. So if he waives speedy trial, I don't imagine the trial will occur until next fall or winter at the soonest. If he demands speedy trial, it will have to be within 90 days of the filing of the trial information, which means it'll have to be done by the end of May.
But then you could
So,
change venue.
yeah, I don't know what he'll do. He's applied for attorney's work, so. But the witness fees and everything else will come out of my budget, and I have a rather large number in there.
You
for
do, it's underneath that special
Yeah,
attorney fee.
special
That's why we
attorney
put
fees.
so much more in there.
And the bill for the flight's gonna come this fiscal year, is my understanding, when I talk to the marshal's office, so.
The only other thing that I could see out of mine is if there's a medical, some medical issues. But other than that, there shouldn't be anything additional other than the housing of him.
Moving forward, could you give us Stephanie maybe can do that, what your fuel expenses were for the last 2 months?
Sure.
And then we could tack that on to this fuel line.
Sure.
And
Yeah, no,
let's look at your budget amendment,
Yeah, no, I
what
can
you
do that.
need to
Yeah, because
get through this fiscal year.
I understand this is probably basically the last time that you can do that, so I want to make sure that I kind of get it right. I don't want to short myself, but I also don't want to ask for, I guess, any additional things. But yeah, you want to look at everything to make sure that, okay, did we cover this? And like you said, the fuel expense is a big thing. So I can look at the last 2 months and I can get that number to Stephanie or you guys too.
Okay.
like you said though, it's gonna be much more inflated because you were just went through a couple slow months and now you're gonna be coming into some busy months.
Yeah. Yeah.
It would give us a track record, but we still don't know where fuel prices are gonna go. They'll probably go up rather than down, the way it's looking.
Plan for the worst, hope for the best.
What's the only bill out of your budget right now? I know you already did that, you give the money back to the county. But you already paid for the $35,000 car.
We did.
You did not pay for the equipment though.
So,
Breakdown.
so,
Did you cut that check?
yeah, the equipment and the building of will be the one that we have not paid yet. So the equipment, every piece except for I think one piece to go in the squad car is sitting down at Raycom right now. They're waiting for that last piece. And so it's the equipment and the installing of that equipment. And that's what I figure is gonna be roughly about 17,000. So yeah, they were just,
I'm just letting the board know, and I know most of us understand that. You paid the 35,000 already. That's why your budget's sitting at 7.8%. Do you need a $70,000 budget amendment? Maybe not, but if we give it to you, you're gonna give it back. If you don't spend it.
well, yeah, you know, I just wanna make sure we've got enough money.
I understand.
That's never been an issue, I guess, any other years.
I get you.
So, yeah, and, yeah, and this is why actually like last year, I tried to buy things because the budget was healthy, and I'm glad that I did because, you know, now the budget's tight, and if you order something, it may be 6 weeks or 6 months before you get things in. I tasked Ryan Schauber a couple weeks ago about getting some bids for vehicles. And I asked him again last week, and he still has not gotten back to me, so that's not a good sign. Not a good sign at all.
We've had two though, this fiscal year. We had a gentleman who was in Fayette for a significant amount of time before being transferred out, and then now Patriots, so I mean, that's gotta be what, north of 10K at least.
Yeah.
Just those two individuals,
Yeah,
I'm guessing,
yeah,
at least.
yeah. Yeah, the only one that we're housing out of county right now is Baytree. And I want to say that we've got 3 in ours, we have 0 in Winship County right now. So,
No, I understand the justification. Get the numbers to Stephanie, and then I guess we can play with the field numbers, but.
I have him here. He doesn't need to. I was just writing him down here. But I mean, March is only like a partial month, so probably should go back to January. Don't you think? If you really want 2 full months.
gas really shot up in
Yeah,
the invasion and about that time, so.
yeah, 3 weeks ago.
I mean, just in one fuel line in February, it was $4,400. In March so far, it's over 2,500. Just because you have 5 fuel areas for each set of.
So we're probably looking between $4,500 and $85,000 going forward.
But that's just one line. Yeah, one line item out of the 5.
I'm sure we use that in corn burning ethanol.
I switched.
I know you did.
I switched. I'm now doing the E15. And you know, my gas mileage isn't suffering, so I think I'm good.
Still trying to find those stickers for you.
Yeah,
Everything but Chickasaw County, I go anywhere, the state, the school, I believe I found the law that you need to have those ethanol stickers. I need a government vehicle. I'll find some for you.
inside.
You cut them off somebody else's, like?
No, let me stealing.
The Corn Growers Association or someone must have them somewhere, so.
That's a real quick question, guys, so when you do a budget amendment, you have to do the expenses, which is why he's talking 65, even though it might only be 13, right? Because of the, but you also have to do the revenue. When you do a budget amendment, you have to change the revenue to that?
You can, don't need to.
Okay,
But
but
we
it's
know we have-
mostly the expenses, right?
It's the allocation of it.
Okay,
The expenses, we know the check came in from the insurance company. But so far, he ate that under his budget at 35,000.
Right.
If that didn't happen, he would have 35,000 to use on other things.
Like fuel.
Might-
You know, really, that's the biggest thing.
It is.
Yeah, that's really the biggest thing, so.
Probably would need to do a budget amendment for your special attorney fees.
For this year,
Because we increased from 8,000 to 38,000.
yeah, but all the 2080 contracts are coming out of there and I'm not paying assistant, so the assistant money should. my
Right.
line items are
You
gonna be
got,
set.
yes,
My overall budget
42% remaining, but do you think you're gonna be
In 40% remaining in what?
in the
Which
expenditure
line?
side of general basic?
Your
So-
whole budget.
My line item for special expenses is gonna be much higher because the
Right.
assistant position,
Right.
air quotes, is being run through that as opposed to the assistant,
Right.
right?
Well, yes.
Yeah. So I think I
yes.
should be okay, right? Maybe
You
I'm wrong.
may
No,
have to
you're-
check with her.
Yeah, no,
after
you're
this
good
month.
because
Okay.
you're right, because it's at, yeah,
You
small
got a lot of
print,
GS
50.
left over.
I don't know how it gets.
General supplemental pay.
General
for hikers,
supplemental.
FICA, and health
I just
insurance.
know in my mind, yeah, what was coming out of my assistant slot in there is zero, or has been zero, so I took over and it's coming out of a different slot now.
Yes. All over budget, even go over.
Yeah, because you have about 19% left out of that assistance since nothing's coming out of there.
Any more questions for Marty? All
Yeah,
right,
just get some final numbers for Stephanie for next week, so we can get a publication, so I know.
Okay,
all right.
can do.
Thank you, Marty.
Yep, thank you.
When does that have to be done by?
Well-
When do you anticipate doing that?
We,
You mean the budget amendment?
time is of the essence and it's not because of what code says, but I did forget, VAs, they are gonna be hurting here real quick if we don't do a budget amendment.
So my comment is, I think I'll be fine unless the speedy trial's demanded. If the speedy trial's demanded, then I'm gonna be front loaded instead of back loaded. So I'll know that hopefully this week. He should get an attorney today, I would hope, today or tomorrow. And then I should know hopefully by first of next week, whether it's demanded or not. Yeah. That's the one that's gonna trip my thing would be if
That
we,
would trip you.
yeah, if we have to have a trial in May versus next year.
Next.
But in all
Next fiscal year,
essence, you would, if you didn't spend it, you would provide it, you
Sure,
would
yeah,
let
it's
it
roll back,
roll
yeah.
back.
Yep.
So I think let's
Well,
look
who
at
knows where
it.
That's gonna go, but that's, I'm just telling you guys. for
Thanks,
mine-
Marty.
For mine,
I
that's
think you
where
can
mine
get with
is at.
Stephanie as soon as you know
Yeah, I will.
results on that, and then you can check your budget too.
Okay. That's the only big variable in mine. It's a big variable, so.
We like to do them in May, beginning of May. We got it at 10/20, and then, you know, CSS is the one that told us last week, told me, somebody from the state said you can't use the budget amendment for 45 days prior to.
Mhm.
That's why, is that the law? So that's why we're doing ours Wednesday, because they want to use that money before 45 days, before the end of June 30th too, so I think sometime in May, I mean, I'm just gonna shoot May 2nd, 9th, is hopefully we can get it done. So hopefully next week we can vote on something for publication, even if it's too high.
Because VA, I sat down with Katie and Melissa, I invited Melissa up for conversation today and I asked her to draft something in writing to present to the board, but initially they were proposing a $16,719 increase in their budget. And that primarily, out of that increase, $13,319 is to do with the increase in salary, FICA and NIPERS.
What was the total number, Stephanie?
16,719. And out of that,
For VA.
yep,
Any other discussion on the budget amendment? Hearing none, I'm gonna move on then to discuss the amendment to the annual financial report.
okay. In your mailboxes, went ahead and color coded everything for you. Give you full cash report, Met with Joan. She said I was off $1 on GB, so I fixed it. $2 GS, fixed it. Just a rounding issue because I can't put in the change. So we fixed that. And then if you look, full cash report, then you look at your service area 0. Yep. And then compare it to this page. So the orange ones are funds all by themselves. General basic, general supplemental, county mental health, rural service basic, secondary road capital projects, and debt service. They're all in orange. They're all their own fund. You can easily tie that out with the full cash report. The ones highlighted in yellow are going to be underneath the general other. You would have to add all those up. Did you tie out to the number that's in there for ending fund balance? And then the pink is going to be your special revenue.
Are these the numbers that are in the budget that was approved last week? To start?
Those start, yes, those are. The ending fund was fine. It just was I was off
Numbers in between.
$1, yeah. Again, I can't put in the change, so.
Just a question then, this is June 30th report, 2021. I know I asked this question a couple months ago. Why is the debt service at $26,359?
Because there's
Did we
a,
levy too much at one time?
at the very beginning.
So is there any way we can get that out of that checking account and pay principal?
So I talked to Piper Jaffrey representative. His name eludes me right now. I have it in an email. I printed it off, put it in there. Thank you. And he said what he would like to do is wait until 2 years after the completion of this project prior to paying out those funds.
Because those funds are just gonna sit there.
They are going to just sit there.
That one's not collecting interest. The one above it is, no.
It's in capital projects is where the money is creating interest.
So the debt service.
So the debt service is,
Just sitting there.
yeah.
Been sitting there for a year and a half.
So we collect it and we expend it, and then this is what we have for an ending fund balance there.
So that 26,059 was from that very first year because we couldn't
Right.
get project started and we had a debt.
No, we collected too much.
We collected too
And
much,
what the principal on interest payments were,
right?
because it was $4.5 million. So we just took too much from the property tax owners.
Right. So what he recommended was waiting till after 2 years after the project was completed, and then we could apply it to principal, knock down that principal balance, pay less interest on the principal.
I'm just asking a question here.
I know,
This is
I'm not sure how to answer that because
Get on.
I'm not the one in charge of that project. So I don't know how to answer your question.
Well, I'm a little surprised that it's gone on as long as it has. Whoever's behind it needs to be pushed or a timeline. I don't get it.
Well, I think Jacob has the,
Well, I'm not pointing any figures at anyone here.
well,
I'm just saying this should be finished.
I'm saying
There's nobody
It
in
has been.
position to finish it.
it has been brought up.
It's been
We're
pushed by
trying
several.
to get things done and get moving, so.
But you don't see any initiative.
Some of it's a closed session, I believe, lately.
That's fine with me, but I can't figure out why this has been on so long. Are you on that deal, Jake?
No, I'm not. Back room is not. No,
I didn't, that's a random picture,
I know you're.
not for purpose. I just don't understand why this thing is dragging.
Any other issues?
Timeline.
I'm sorry,
I
what?
just also want to make a motion to amend this.
Just, I would like to make the motion to amend the financial report and to publish it in the newspaper.
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second it then.
So you're we print all this in the paper.
It's a
Yeah.
snippet, yeah. It's no different than the last one. I just gotta go into Dome and it procures it.
Any other questions? All those in favor, then? Signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone disagree?
If I can go back to,
Motion carries. Yeah.
so we did talk about budget work session, the 45 and 46, the fourth fixture fund. Does both those departments know they can spend that and get those cleaned up?
Yes.
Talking to the sheriff and his,
Yep.
they've been on the books for probably 10 years.
There's some other funds that could also be cleaned up too, but
So, you want me to speak with the chair and have him talk with you?
Well, we told them budget work sessions, and then some of them didn't know that it was even in there anymore. And all you gotta do is code it to it. They buy weapons or whatever those funds could be used for.
yep, because we looked into the sheriffs previously to see what they spent it on, and that's what they spent it on.
And
So,
or
yes.
practice. Oh, and I'm talking, it falls into, I guess, the budget amendment. And David should answer this too, I guess. Are we gonna get any funds from that lawsuit for opioids? Is that this fiscal year or next fiscal year?
I'm not.
We put you in charge of that number.
I know. I know.
It's put all over the news.
I
I
know.
just don't know when the attorney general's gonna cut the checks. to the
I-
counties. We can't spend
I
it,
don't
so-
get it real excited about this stuff. Kind of like ARPA funds, because look how much time and effort I put into that, and now they're saying underneath 10 million is lost revenue. Well, thanks. I spent all this time.
So that opioid money is really restricted.
It is very restricted.
Training and education.
Yeah,
But we can't spend it until we authorize it.
so basically that money almost gotta go to public health for
Sure.
programs to,
Just something that we look into at some point, if it ever is gonna show up, what fiscal year.
Well,
Can't spend it until we use it now.
we'll wait till we get our second half of ARPA funds too.
Yeah. Just a question, thank you.
I'll look into it.
Discussion on the amendment?
I'd say, yeah, until we get more concrete numbers.
Okay. Moving down, discuss contract, local funeral home for transfers to the state of Iowa medical exam.
So I asked for this to be put on the agenda because I actually participated with other auditors within the state of Iowa. They're seeing a significant increase in the charges that are being presented to the county for payment. We have a financial responsibility to transfer if there's a death and it was unwitnessed. The MEI or ME will have the body sent down to the state ME's office and have them do their report on the deceased individual. What other counties are experiencing is that, we'll rebuy our body bags ahead of time. They're not, so a $50 body bag is now $150. And they're also charging for like prepping of the body prior to the transfer back to the funeral home for said whatever, or prepping the body for cremation. So it was discussed that maybe to control those costs that the counties develop a contract with local funeral homes, so that way we kind of can control the cost of what's being charged to the taxpayers for that service. We have a difference in the charges that we get from the current providers, and so I know we get bids for things, services for the county. I don't know why we do it here.
So just a couple questions. MEIs are only on the scene if there's an unintended death.
Right, correct.
So are we being charged for like a hospice patient?
Okay.
and then the family decides to take it down to the autopsy, are we getting charged those autopsy fees? Because I thought the MEI can only charge.
Yes. So.
What did you mean by body bags? Because.
So in some counties, when they call for the pickup of the body, the funeral homes provide them
Yes, I know that.
and upcharge them. Where our MEIs actually buys the body bags in bulk, we have them in stock underneath our MEI budget.
But we're not.
But there's a difference
Yeah,
in
no,
price
it is. Oh,
in transfer. So
correct. Okay,
that's
so
what
this
I'm
issue
trying to
about
get at.
transfer.
This, yes,
Really
and
not about body bags because.
no.
They might not be charging us for body bags if it's
Right.
a hospice case.
Right.
or-
I'm just saying in
There's
general, the
case.
conversation was, it was all
Okay,
over
Now it makes sense.
the board.
So you're talking maybe a policy and a contract
Yes,
with the.
local per
providers
funeral homes, yes,
For transfers.
yes.
Okay, now I'm on the same page. So it's nothing to do about body bags, it's about transfer down to.
Right, and that's why the agenda item is discussed contracting with local funeral homes for transfers to the state of Iowa's medical examiner.
So all of 10 deaths, is that mandatory autopsy?
No. it's
No.
up to the MEI.
Yes,
So it's a whole bunch of categories. Yeah. And we go into all those details.
and so I actually was in conversation with two people that are in that business as well that we had this conversation with, and there's some legislature that's going to be rolling out that would impact also the way that we do these things.
So the question would be, and I know this has happened in the past, I'm not gonna go into details, but MEI family tells who the call.
The family tells, yes,
And then sometimes that's not the right funeral home.
that happened.
And then the issue would be is who's paying who, if that's what I'm getting.
Mhm.
If the other one took them down, or he down, or she down, and then we get billed at a higher rate, but the other one's a lower rate.
Yep.
I mean, how would you propose this to those two funeral directors? Because it comes over custody of the body that remains.
Well, and that's why it'd be nice to level the playing field if they could both come to, if the flat rate of this to do the transfer, doesn't matter what funeral home you utilize.
That's gonna be tough. Just
Or
in past
whatever.
history, it's gonna be tough because
Or
They go up
just
to Iowa.
cannot exceed whatever their contract is for transfer. I don't know.
technically it's MEI's until they give it to the funeral director.
Right, but the family has the choice of who they want to utilize for the transfer.
Exactly.
They just changed a lot on this last
Yes,
year though, that you're
yes.
asking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have it in front of me, because I just looked at it this morning, but, aren't they just go with the rate, the IRS rate? Is that what the code says now?
Well, that'd be nice. Well, public record, what is it? I mean, one's $650 and the other one's $350-ish.
No, it's more than that.
It's more than that now.
They're drastically different.
They
I
are
know that.
just-
And I knew that, and I've had some discussions on why, and it's like, and if there's a law change, it'd be nice to give them a copy.
Well, I know this is a debate, 'cause I saw an email probably 2 months ago from the Polk County, some of the Polk County Attorney's Office, the County Attorney's Association. Apparently they were having problems with their funeral homes in Polk County would go to another county, for instance, Dallas or Warren County, which would be like down by Indianola, to pick up a body and bring it back to Polk County for the autopsy. And they were saying we should not be responsible for that. The county that the person died in should be responsible, even though the funeral home was located in Polk County that went to get them.
Yes, that's the big one that we had a big discussion on.
So I
Yes.
didn't see any further discussion on the email thread that I saw. She just posed the question. Sorry, I'm looking at the code section here.
I just don't know how to get a bid out there because A, we don't know where family decides to take them. And they're gonna come back with different rates, just so, how do we put a cap on
But
Yeah,
we're the
okay.
ones caught paying the bill.
it? Exactly.
Subsection 9 says, if an autopsy is ordered under this section, the county shall reimburse the funeral director for all costs associated with the transportation of the body to and from the facility performing the autopsy, at a rate equivalent to the rate of reimbursement allowed under the standard mileage rate for computation of business expenses pursuant to the Internal Revenue Code at the time this transportation occurs, plus any other associated fees.
So it kind of leaves it open.
Yeah, well, imagine that.
Yeah. So that is why I'm bringing it to the board, is because that verbiage does not limit how much they can charge us. So
Possibly having a contract may benefit.
So one funeral home is $110 more than the other.
And they get away by putting other services or other charges.
And any other associated fees.
Yeah.
If you look at their itemized bills. I don't know how you're gonna.
I'm just bringing it to your attention. Do nothing or do something.
Is there anything in that code that says you shall use who they request, or does it let it open-ended that we, as a county, are paying for it, and we set a policy, we're gonna go with the cheapest vendor?
When we looked at this
Or
last
what we're
time,
reimbursing you. We're gonna be using the IRS rate plus X for your associated fees. We think that's the appropriate number to set for taking a body from Chickasaw County to the medical examiner's office in Edgewood, period, end of story. That's the flat rate we're gonna pay you.
And if you don't like it, I guess it goes with the other service.
I mean, I don't know. Is that
So
what you're
in the-
proposing?
in-
Not what you're proposing, sorry.
I'm not proposing anything. I'm just giving them the information, I guess. I mean, I guess what I'm proposing them is do you want to pursue this or not? And try and control the cost, because this has been a hot button for Polk County. And
What happens with these businesses using this fuel surcharge as an additional charge now? The IRS rate doesn't change for 1 year. So they only get 56.5 cents, whatever it is.
58,
58.
58 and a half.
Are they itemizing that in their bills?
I'd have to pull one.
Yeah, I'm not for sure.
So are we seeking reimbursement? Sorry.
We pay for them to go down.
And then we pay for the autopsy.
Yes.
Which I've never understood. I mean, if the family's got money in insurance, shouldn't they go through an insurance process and reimburse us? But obviously I was told no.
It is, yeah, if you look at the code section, it doesn't read that way. And I think when we investigated this before, we had found certain verbiage that stated basically that it was there was the chain of command of who decided who picked up the body to transfer. And it was like the family, and I think the sheriff's department was included in that, and the MEI and the ME, and I don't remember exactly the order of it.
Order, yeah.
Yeah, the order of the command. Yeah, correct.
Who has priority first decision on down the line?
So, I mean,
It'd be nice to get together. It's just, I don't know how to do it. There's 2 of them in Chickasaw County that I know of.
What's for discussion to make us aware of
I just make you aware of it, and if you want to pursue it or not.
if there's any other discussion, or bring it back after we have our attorney look at it for a little bit. He's doing it now.
I can look at it, I'm reading it right now, but I guess, I don't know why you just wouldn't say, hey, our policy is this is what we're reimbursing you. We're reimbursing you X for mileage plus Y for associated costs. That's what we expect the cost to be.
So essentially, we need to have a policy then.
Correct.
Or contract.
And see, I know Floyd County has a contract with their funeral home over there. They also have an agreement with the ambulance service too.
Yeah, or contract with one of them to do it.
Yeah.
At X rate.
Yeah.
Either or.
And then I think, just to be on the same page, we don't get paid to go, when they pick them up,
Mm-hmm.
we don't pay that bill. We just pay to take it down.
Mhm. Unless they're indigent.
Correct.
But if they don't live and reside in this county, then I actually bill that county. Just like when I had that individual that passed away that resided in Minnesota, that took me 6 months to get payment back out of that.
So technically, they're actually driving the roads 4 times because they want that court back to do their service.
Right.
So I'm just saying that the policy has to be in those details, that we're paying you this rate for your service taken down.
All right.
Is there any more
What's your
discussion?
guys' preference? Do you want us to, someone, or do you wanna reach out to the two of them and see if one of them wants to be the designated person, or that's something they wanna do, or do you want me to figure out if we can do that, or which route would you rather go? Would you rather just set a policy that says, hey, here's the reimbursement rate according to the IRS, and we're gonna give you X for associated fees?
Well, I would like to know if we could do that first,
Okay.
because if they have a contract with the family already for a funeral or something, and then we use the other one, and that one's, it's like, well, it's already paid for.
Seems hard to me that you guys would be on the hook to reimburse the funeral director for whatever costs they bill. For instance, they decide that it costs them 50% more than the next guy to take them down there. Why would they kind of be on the hook for that higher price? Why wouldn't they kind of be able to set the price as long as it's reasonable of what it is? See what I'm saying? I don't know why one will be able to say, hey, it costs us X to do it, and the other one says it only costs us 80% X to do it. Why can't we say, we think the reasonable rate bet is 80% of X, that's what we're gonna set that.
What happens on the road, get new owners, and they both say, you can take care of your own body, and then what costs to hire a service to do that? I'm just asking. If we set it too low.
Why don't you bid it?
Right.
Why don't you bid it? That's what
That's,
I do with it. Then everybody's in clear.
Because this policy only comes up on the MEI request, and not
Correct.
I like to see a policy. I guess I don't know how you would set the rate, but 110%.
I don't know if you need to set the rate, just we accept bids at every fiscal year or annual calendar year, and whatever that is agreed upon, then that is what we follow. I mean, we could do it that way.
The only issue I foresee, and I've talked to one of them, is who's gonna go pick up the body then? It's on them.
There's other
Meaning
county.
then the funeral home, that's gonna transport it.
Because if you get one low bid to do it all the time, is that person also required to go pick them up too and take them to the other garage? You're gonna see that, you're gonna hear that. So
Well, technically, it's just our responsibility to do the autopsy, right?
that's it.
That'd be that funeral home's responsibility to go pick up the body then, if they're getting paid for it. Be getting paid from the family, I would assume.
Just want to be clear. I would agree with that, but
So is the consensus to have our attorney draw up a policy or more discussion next week and then give them direction?
I'm okay with the policy then.
because that brings up, a concern when the body bag closes, they release it to the funeral director under their custody. So we release it to the person that has the bid. And just gotta make sure the MEIs know that. There's been issues throughout this county.
Too, if they have to sit there and wait, it could be 2 or 3 hours. Whenever they can. Pick up the body.
I just want clarification. I'm not saying that I want to have one over the other. I just want to have a solid number
Oh,
from
I
each
agree
of
with
them.
that, but if we went out for bids,
I guess what I'm saying is I do not want it to exceed whatever they're bidding.
Well, we can't
Does
guarantee
that-
that if they're gonna take a bid.
exactly.
Well, okay, maybe I'm not saying this right. Maybe I'm confusing everybody because Thunder's thinking really hard. But I'm just saying.
I'm just listening.
No, you're fine. I guess what I'm just saying is if they're gonna tell us it's gonna cost us $650 for a transfer and the other funeral home's at $725 for a transfer, that's what it is. It does not exceed that. Is that not feasible?
I don't think that's gonna be
It
feasible,
may not
because
be,
they're gonna say our cost is
because
going up.
there could be unknown costs throughout the year that they have.
I mean,
So you're saying that we just
Try to-
pay them their rate, regardless of what, irrespective of what the rate is for the other person?
say that again.
You're saying that if one charges $725 and one charges $650, we just pay what.
It would
what
just
they
be
know.
nice to be all on one level playing field. I don't know how to obtain that. I want us to all be on the same page. I guess what I don't want is I don't want one to feel favored over the other. I want it to be a fair process, I guess it's up to you guys to find what that process
Well, it is a
is.
fair process if they, put a bid in.
So,
They both had the opportunity. Problem is, if they come back to the exact same rate, then I guess it's whoever to me, if that's what it is, then it's whoever the choice is between the family. If it comes back the same rate, we don't have to worry about nothing, and we achieved our goal of having the same rate.
What if neither bids, or what if they include in their bidding and say, hey, all of a sudden it's gonna cost you $1,000?
It's possible.
Mhm. Very good point.
so I guess maybe we'll look at the code section that passed last
It was last
Year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but of course, nobody really looks at that until it's an issue, right? So here we are. And maybe you don't want to do anything, but I know that this was a hot topic for us auditors at our last auditor meeting. So whether you do something with it, it's up to you.
And that's where that law is so right, gray. What if they came back with $2,000 bill? You gotta pay it?
Polk County did.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
That's what's word in the email, I think, so I never saw anything else on it.
I'm assuming like any policy, they have their right to refuse and.
Yeah, plus any other associated fees, but I think you have a right to be reasonable on your fees. I mean, they can't say, well, we're flying them down there and have a helicopter that's gonna cost you $30,000. I mean, I think you would say that's not a reasonable fee. But I think you have the right to determine what the reasonable fee is. And I think the reasonable fee is one bid X, one bid 80% of X, you say, okay, I don't care if you send it at X or if you send it 80% of X, they're both reasonable. So maybe the policy is, you decide your policy is, we do not charge more than what the top one is charging right now. That's what we're going. We cannot exceed X, and the X is set at whatever the higher one is. I mean, is there a substantial difference in the two of them?
$110.
And we have how many per year go down there? 4 or 5?
Recently I had, I think it was 4 in this fiscal year.
I mean, I don't think you guys are in the wrong doing your due diligence by saying that's a reasonable fee. I mean, if it's only $110 difference. And you say, hey, we're gonna pay you X, that's what we're gonna set as our policy. And I don't think that's unreasonable, that their fee is, it's not like it's 70% higher or double the price of the next guy down the road. If that's the easiest way to keep peace and keep them working with you and keep families satisfied and avoid further headaches, then I don't think that's a line for you guys to do that. If that's what you want to do.
And so there's, what do we have last year, like 15 total?
Usually on average, 12 to 15.
I can look.
So what we're really price squabbling over is about $600.
But
But it's the top end of it. What's the max they could charge? And then we say no. If we don't have a policy, there's There's no cap.
Right.
There's no cap.
So yeah, we've had 3 transfers this fiscal year. And last fiscal year we had 13.
Well, my suspicion is if you set your policy that whomever has the higher price right now is reasonable, the other one's gonna adjust and start charging you that.
I would agree.
I mean, that seems like prudent business sense to me. Once they get the email that says the county's new policy is, you can't exceed it, that's what we think the reasonable price is, reasonable rate is X.
You're gonna see that bill equal.
Correct. But then you avoid the rest of the problems, you avoid all the other problems and the other hassles. I mean, and I don't think you guys are outlining doing your due diligence by setting that as the reasonable rate because it's relatively close compared to one another. You had 2 people who are providing a service. It's not like you just picked one out of the hat or, one of something.
And it's fair for the lower one too to be at the higher rate. It's a business, fairness. But I said it before in this meeting, I won't do it.
So what's the wishes of the board then?
I think work with the law and type up a policy, and, to me, if they're at the 650, that's the gap. Do we inflate a little bit for fuel costs more, but this is,
It's something we have to look at every year at the beginning of either a fiscal or budget year or the calendar year. We'll reconvene.
and I think this has something to do with what Winnebago County was trying to do at the last 6 county meeting, is to buy a vehicle and do it themselves, because they were stuck with these bills probably all over. And they said, we'll just hire somebody to do it from here on out, and we'll take care of it at this X amount. And
So do you want to look into what their services or do they not go through with it?
I think that pretty much got tickled because they wanted a region. They wanted Howard, Chickasaw, Fayette, and Winnebago to go together. Oh, this one van would do the transfers for all 4 counties. But then it comes back to response time. Does it, I mean, I have to wait 4 hours
3 hours,
or what
6 hours.
And that's what's tough about the county service. Because, we all know that. So, I don't think they jumped that ship yet. So they still currently use their directors.
So just so I'm clear, just so Stephanie's clear, so do you want a motion today to set it at that rate, or do you want to put it on the agenda for June to set it for fiscal year 22-23 at X rate?
That'd be a good idea too. Look at it every year at the beginning of July.
Or then in June, set it.
Or in
Yeah.
June.
Do you want to put it on
For July.
the agenda for sometime in June to set your rate for what it is?
For the new fiscal year.
That would make sense.
I'd be there. Jason, you're there?
Yeah.
Or should we do it in January with all the other set rates?
Yeah,
Yeah.
January would be better.
I don't know the answer to that question.
That's when we set
That's when we
reimbursement
set
and mileage and.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to set it now for their 2022 calendar year based upon.
Well, we're past that. That boat sailed, but kind of, sort of, but I guess going forward, January would be the optimistic time to visit it.
Why can't you
with
set it for the
budget.
rest of the year?
Yeah.
You could.
Yeah.
We could, or we could start it. like
You
you
just
said,
say effective April 1, this is our rate. This is what we're gonna reimburse. Did they break it down by the mileage number with the IRS rate?
I'd have to look.
I don't think so.
I don't believe so.
I think so.
I think it's a flat fee.
And it all determines if they live in that part of the county or that part or that part. And that's why in my 6 years, I haven't seen the rate change between both of them. Without doing more research, but the one was always higher than the other one.
Yep. When I looked, it was between last fiscal year and the current one, it's the same rate for that one.
Between this time and that time, we could talk to Winnebago County or Howard County and ask them what their rates are too. It's a little further.
Yeah.
If they're cheaper than us or they're higher than us.
I think you should set the rate, I think you should set it sooner rather than later. We might not wait till next meeting to find out for sure if they break it down and what the mileage is and we do the math, but.
I can visit with a couple of them.
Couple of
So
what?
See how there's a difference in the two of them because.
See how they break it down.
Yeah.
See how they come up with those numbers.
It's no different than any business. I mean, you go get your taxes done or go to a lawyer, one's gonna charge you one price, one
And you
might
can
charge
send
you
them out
less
to the
or more.
auditors from
It's not
other
unreasonable.
counties and ask them how their bills are.
So we're gonna put it on next week's agenda then.
Do we really need a policy then, or just set the rate?
I think you just gonna set the rate.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be your motion is, I'm gonna motion that we set the rate effective April 1, 2022 at X. But between now and then, you figure out what you wanna do with X. I mean, based on what they're submitting or. That'd be my suggestion. Then it's clear for Stephanie's office as to what we're gonna cap it at. Or what they're gonna charge us. Same thing.
Sounds good.
Does that address that, Stephanie?
Yes, thank you.
You okay with it, Jason and
Yep.
Steve? All right. Moving on then. Discuss conflict of interest policy.
I believe this was asked for. EMA had a conflict of interest policy that they passed, so I sent that off to Ladner and I believe he drafted it. And then that's what's in front of you all.
Public Health has a one-page conflict of interest policy that I asked from Lisa. It's almost everything in public health is in the new one, except that there's a signature line and a date on the public health one.
I don't think I got one of those.
Yeah, it came back about 3 months ago. We brought this-
Oh.
It's been a minute,
Okay.
yeah. Do you want me
It's
to
been
make
on
you a
my
new
file-
copy?
It's been on my file
You might not
for
have one.
3
Let me
months.
get you one.
Um,
Does anybody need a copy?
Yeah.
Yes?
Tim, you want a new copy too?
I'll take one later.
Yeah.
So you're gonna make copies then.
Alrighty, that's fine.
And with all policies, county attorney, what's the consequences?
Yeah.
Good on anyway. Just asking the common question. You know, even like personal interest, I even looked up 68B22, what elected officials and county officials are not supposed to take gifts. But there's a whole bunch of exceptions. Anybody should read that section because it's long. If you're invited to a meeting, say for Farm Bureau, you can actually eat their free food because you're involved in that meeting. And it's not what I was told many years ago. You didn't know. And 68B is not in this conflict of interest policy. And then you read a personal interest. Employee must not take part in or intend to influence any board member up here on decisions or business dealings or whatever. So who's this policy for? Is it for like the auditor, the attorney, the sheriff? Or is this everybody under the county? And that's one of my notes. Does this policy affect public health, county conservation, VA, all other boards? Does it affect the elected officials?
They'd have to, the autonomous boards, I would assume, would adopt
I hope
this.
so.
They have, public health has one, you may, this is.
Yeah, that's, yeah,
So this is
right.
VMAs.
But you also have VA,
Right,
then
And
we
you
got
would need to
different ones for public
adopt.
health.
yeah.
they have their own already.
You guys wanted one for yourselves and
Oh, I get it.
this was the initiative I took and
No, I appreciate it.
I mean, we can massage it and change it and edit it however you guys want. You're right, there's, what the punishment is. I don't know how you put a sanction in there. You know, what you suspended.
So then who's it for? Then who's it for then?
Right.
You know, who's this for?
I think it's, I guess for me, it's more for guidance because we collectively get calls and texts and emails and stop occasionally as to what you can and cannot vote on. And I think that's where I think the policy is so that everyone's on the same page as to why I declare a conflict. Here's why I declare a conflict. It's in our policy that this is a conflict. And if someone else challenges whether someone has a conflict, I think that could and would and does happen as well. Someone says, hey, person A, you can't vote on this because you have a conflict pursuant to our policy. Okay, let's flush that out and talk about it. Is it really a conflict or is it not? But I think the overarching principle to me still remains that if any of you guys feel like you have a conflict, then I don't know that anyone can challenge the fact that you have a conflict. To me, if you declare a conflict, then it's set up, you don't have to vote. You're not forced to vote. I think the more probable question becomes, can someone preclude you from voting by saying that you have a conflict?
They tried that up in the courtroom about 4 years ago on me, when I owned a parcel south of the bypass basin. And I finally had to say that I own that parcel to the south of that fence line. And I finally had to abstain. But you're right, why did I have to prove that? You know, it was pushed hard by 4 or 5 people in that room that day. Well, why aren't you voting? I can't vote. You know, but
I don't think anyone can make you vote, but I think the question is, can someone prevent you from voting? And I don't think there's any procedures in there on that. So perhaps there should be a section in there if this is real true, what you guys want to do, that says if one member challenges the conflict of interest of the other member, this is the process we go through. The member has a chance to explain why they don't feel like there's a conflict, and then perhaps the board votes. You're gonna have 4 of the votes, so what happens if the tie vote? I mean, or who decides that, I guess would be the question. And I don't know the answer to that. We could call around, I guess, and figure out if other boards have this and what they have. And I would hope that would be a very extraordinary situation, but those things happen.
so then, am I hearing you right? This is just the board policy? Has nothing to do with, because it says right here, policy statement. All employees should vote on it.
You guys can do whatever you want to do. If you want to set a policy for yourself, this is just an example. I mean, I don't think this is going to be set in stone. It's just a matter
It
of
was a
what you guys
basis.
want to do. Yeah, it's just an example. Do you guys want a policy just for yourselves? Do you want a policy for everybody? And if so, what do you want that policy to look like? Those are the questions. And if you want to set up a subcommittee of 2 of you to come work with me as to how we're going to do that, or work with Stephanie and I, that's fine.
I mean, you could change the verbiage
yeah, you
to
can change
Board of
whatever you want.
Supervisors of Chickasaw County are required to perform their duties.
Yeah.
You'd easily change that out if you want it just for the Board of Supervisors.
I don't know if there's a magic formula for anything. I suppose Galloway would probably have examples of this as well.
Who?
Mike would probably have examples of this as well. They could be consulted on this to say, hey, what have other counties done? You know, he's trying to shove it off to someone else. He's a better resource than I am. But really, this is
Mark and Ann, or and he might just say, put this, if it's not just board itself, put it in the handbook then.
well, my opinion is the board and elected officials should all have it. I don't know if all the employees should set the because I don't know if they're making decisions that. But I think at a minimum, the board and elected officials, and perhaps the department heads. But non-elected department heads.
The question is, we're going to put a line and have them sign it, each, whether elected officials, department heads too. So we know they
They do
know
on
about
the
it.
They do on the handbook. It's just like you receive them. If you didn't read it, that's your own opinion. You didn't read it. But I'm okay to put a committee together, or somebody bring it back to my Galloway or Ann, or
I was just gonna shoot Ann an email asking if she had an example for specific to Board of Supervisors. I know you're not the first ones to ask.
No, yeah. That'd be my only question is, what happens if someone challenges someone has a conflict? That's where I see problems arising. If someone says, you can't vote because you have a conflict because you have business interests, and that person says, no, I don't have interest, I can vote if I want to. What happens then? That's the,
Then I suppose they can push it to the ethics board. Right.
suppose, yeah, and the problem becomes, if someone votes and turns out they have a conflict of interest, then the vote technically rolls all the way back to being invalid. And that might take some time, so I'm thinking out loud here moving forward, as we talk about some of these multi-million dollar projects you may have on the table over the next 6 to 8 months. What happens if someone votes on that and the wheels are already down, the train's already down the track, and then a year and a half from now, someone comes back to court and says, that person had the right to vote, and that person could be on to new positions or boards or spots in life.
Exactly.
But that's why I think it's important to have this, so.
So you want myself and Matt, you go to the county attorney?
Yeah.
After he gets healed up, or 2 days, 3 days?
Look at.
Yeah, I'm healed up. I think
So,
the Des Moines, the HR team is gonna be much more of an asset to them than me. So I will send them a call. I'll send them a call. Yeah,
Okay,
but I mean, if they wanna set something up or they wanna shoot us an example and we wanna, four of us wanna talk about it and see what we like and don't like, but.
so on Pathways, every month meeting, the fourth item on the agenda says declare conflict of interest on any actionable items. Don't know why they've ever done that, but that's what Pathways Board does. And usually everybody says, no, I don't have nothing, and we move on. But it's declared before any of the actual items are even talked about. That you have to declare conflict on any actual item.
I don't know if that's required for a code section or if that's just a preference.
I'm not for sure.
I don't know that it's required, but best practice, someone told them at one point to do, so I'm guessing. Or they got in a jam somewhere and now they learned and.
Yep.
Probably would have led in the former.
okay, so moving on, you're okay with myself and Matt?
Yeah.
We'll check with HR with Mike Galloway and then see what we come up with, whether it be on next week's agenda or the following. And I'm hearing that you want to direct it towards supervisors and elected officials and department heads. We may change instead of all employees.
Sorry.
Okay, moving on, discuss Heartland insurance values on county-owned property. Judy got back to me, yeah, the last time they did it on site was back in 2012 with valuations. And from what little information she sent me, it looks like they had the values of what are already on our current sheet. You look at these values on this sheet here. So, because there was a question of whether, when was the last time they did the walk around or the on-site? And their other response to all the other times they would just look at Beacon or just look on the internet to see the buildings, probably make sure if there's any additions or anything that would change the values of the buildings. So that would have been 10 years ago. That was an on-site visit.
That makes sense, Tim. I think I remember we bumped our up stuff about then.
I can't remember that far back, so. At that time, Rick was, part
Yeah,
of
so I think our building, like we had this in church for like 3 at one time.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
You can remember?
They were all up there March 22nd or 11. That's what confused me. When you see that date and usually they said it was 2012.
That's what confused me too a little bit.
I bet they came here in 11 and we did it on our budget in 12.
That makes sense. Because we have to pay that bill up front
Yeah.
in August.
No, I am not disagreeing that they need to be changed. I think they all need to be changed, but again, we can spend hours on doing this, or we can just, Tim and somebody else, talk about it and bring it back to us, and so we can sit here today and do all 25, 24 properties and move them. But there you go.
Well, yeah,
It's too high.
yeah, Matt and I can visit with Ray too. He's presented to us already the cost of rebuilding commercial square footage wise.
And if you get those prices, it might be too much work for Heartland to do, but what's the premium change? That's gonna require a budget amendment August 1st.
Very well could be, if we're looking at even 10 or 20% increase in our values. And that may even be, it's a question of just what are we willing to do at this time? 10, 20% or?
I'm pretty sure that's what we did last time, because I don't think we went up
You
to the
think it was-
recommendations of what they thought.
What they thought?
We went for what we're comfortable paying.
So I guess you just tell her, and if we go up 10, 15% on all properties, what does that premium look like? You
I could throw them out, 10, 15, or 20% on our valuations. I'll just sit down, line item by line item, and raise it up and maybe give her a,
Well, I
give
think
Judy a.
they should go do that, they can
Yeah.
figure out if we're worth $20 million in valuation, take 20% premium costs, and
We go about $4 million and
Yeah, that's what all we can do right now without having an accurate valuation.
Well, 20% is 900,000 just on the courthouse, a valuation increase. The county garage, we have 1730, 1.7 million. 20%, that's $350,000. We all know a building like that could be a lot higher than what we have.
Okay, your courthouse here. What's it gonna cost you to replace this courthouse in the quality that it is?
Yeah.
like
What's
Ray,
it gonna cost you?
Ray's already
You
got
a
that
nice
figured.
courthouse, and the point being, when people around the state I know says, you guys got a pretty nice courthouse, and it looks nice and it's well kept. So you insure it. I'd rather be overinsured than underinsured.
like Ray's got it 8.8 million.
The key to the whole thing is, you're gonna get the quality of courthouse back that you have now. Then you run into Charles City's deal over there, went over budget.
Well, what happened to them
Scary.
on the new jail?
Yeah.
I think they passed 14.5 million and they ended up maybe 19. But I don't know if that was other additions.
It's kind of scary, is because none of the supervisors are running for reelection over there. Whether, I don't know why,
Well, they changed their plan.
I read the Charles City paper last Thursday.
It got voted through last year.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
changed the plan to go
Yeah.
to elected, different districts, I understand that.
Not that large.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
larges anymore, which is a smart thing to do.
Which-
Do it now.
They don't even have,
1970. I didn't realize it was that far back.
I did that reading too, and I just kind of went, okay.
and they don't even have their supervisor districts drawn because LSA rejected them and they have a special election come up and they don't know where the lines are for precinct polls or anything. No, just be grateful that we slid through. There was a lot that didn't,
Hard for somebody to run for election if they don't know what's in the addiction district.
Exactly.
right?
Well, did they say all three of them live within 2 miles?
Yeah, something like that.
So Tim, yeah, you and I get together and
Yeah, we'll
talk
talk.
some numbers next week. Premium costs and everything.
Next, okay.
Okay, if we're done with discussing that, discuss future agenda items.
Yeah, one came up, there's one that came up last week, me and one of our MEIs talked to Stephanie about it. Hopefully that's on the agenda for next Monday. It's,
It
when we
is.
made the motion, the state thinking,
The Emmy,
the ME does not like it when we listed, all other positions on call. We need to have physical names listed, so.
so what I did was I knew that we had gone back, and that was January 17th, where the motion was made to appoint Dr. Jack Klein as the medical examiner for Chickasaw County, but we need to amend that second part of the January 4th motion. I provided the minutes to the state ME's office from January 17th. They thanked me for that. I said, we'll get it on the agenda for the 28th. And then once that is amended, then I'll send it back down to them to pacify them.
So we just gotta add Dr. Lucas Brinkman or what?
And that other gentleman,
Dr.
Lewis.
Donald Lewis.
yeah. So that's all that we need to do for that. So I have it marked down for next meeting on the 28th.
That's all I have. Maybe a claim to read, but.
Is there, anyone else who had committee assignments last week?
Can we stay on that for next week's agenda is that okay, Vice?
Do what?
Okay, I have more items to discuss with you for next week's agenda. Is that okay?
Okay, sure, yeah.
Okay. I would actually really like to discuss this PI efficiency program that the state of Iowa auditor has really trying to push forward this initiative. Essentially what it is a public innovations and efficiencies. So basically it's kind of like a little fun competition in between the different counties as far as how to save energy use, create efficiencies within the local governments. Henceforth, that travels to saving taxpayer funds for in the long run. I have a report from the state auditor's office that other counties have done. I really feel like maybe we should have the board look at those different things that other counties have done to see if we can create any efficiencies within our own county. If you don't want it on there, that's fine. I think it should be a topic of discussion. And then I think Dave Gorman might be coming up to give a department update, possibly. I don't know. I would like, Jeff said he couldn't make it for today's agenda. Maybe he can make next week's for a tower project update. And then when you were stepped out, opioid litigation question came up, so probably discuss that next week.
It's a budget request, budget amendment. Do we know when
The
it's going to come? This fiscal
The
year,
funds.
fiscal year?
Yeah, I don't think.
No, it got approved by one of them in the bankruptcy court, and I get emails on it probably twice a week, so I printed them from the file.
It was just a question, budget amendment, if we need to amend it this year or next fiscal year.
No, I don't think we're gonna see any funds until after July 1.
Okay, that's fine.
Back on discussing agenda. I see I have a Heartland meeting this week, the dentist appointment. And I don't know when Matt would be willing to discuss that, but if we don't get it done this week, we'll have to work on it next week then. For the Heartland insurance evaluations.
I go back to future agenda items, start talking about it. So pies is the email that I get from Rob's office
Yes.
Mhm,
that I delete.
mhm.
Is this something you want me to start doing? Or what, I'll just wait till the agenda item next week, but I mean.
No, I just.
So you're presenting a list of things other counties have done, and they've gotten awards from him for doing well, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
Okay.
I mean, we all talk about creating efficiencies within the county. Why are we not pushing that initiative forward within our own departments or within our own buildings? I don't understand why we sit here and say we want more efficiencies, but we don't do it. here's the opportunity to discuss what other counties have done and to see if anybody wants to take the initiative and carry those out.
So, good point, and Rob started this when we got elected, and I think I was one of the first ones that filled it out as a board 2-3 years ago. I believe you had to do the awards this year,
I did.
which was sad. And then you did your own for the auditor.
Yep.
Every office elected is supposed to fill out this survey, and he's tracking what you've done in the past, and he gives these high awards to counties or cities, schools. He's just trying to be more efficient. And that's part of his job as a state auditor. But that falls back into a thing that I got wrote right here. And you brought up, Dave, about 2-3 weeks ago. When's our last department head meeting? You know, have we had one yet?
Not
Let's
yet.
schedule one. You know, I don't know what's happening. So, I think the last
Well,
one
we
was
did
about-
once a quarter.
Yeah, but the
and-
last one was back in April or June last year. And a lot of things have changed since then. So,
I don't know without looking. Is that right? I don't
I
remember.
thought we had one this fall.
Yeah, I thought we had one. I couldn't
I didn't
attend.
go. I couldn't attend either. I had something else that day.
There was one set and I couldn't attend.
Yeah. I don't know if it went or
I don't
not,
think it
but,
happened.
but I don't know if we get, I never saw like minutes from it or discussion or like a summary of what was discussed or brought up or done. So
I can look. Again, I wasn't there, so I know that it was scheduled and I can look back at my emails, but
Well, I think it's appropriate to have one, so. And that might be necessary this spring in conjunction with the conflict of interest policy, if you get one of those handed out.
so what I was trying to do is trying to get him to convene once a quarter. It'd be nice if somebody else could take that initiative over to.
Any other discussion? Back to committee assignments, I didn't have any, I didn't last week. Steve, do you have any? Okay. Jake, you made a report already, so I'm done.
I have a question before you adjourn.
Okay, go ahead.
Has it been decided, you were gonna release the minutes from the Inspire meeting as it was a closed session, and you were gonna release them to make it an open session, is that correct?
We've already done that.
Well, I haven't been here for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You asked me.
Yep.
Okay, I want a copy of those.
Okay. Not a problem.
Please.
Yeah,
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, we are adjourned at 11:57.
Did you ever get an email?
hold on.
Matt back yet?
I gotta stop this live streaming.
So, you know,
Yeah.